Welcome to DAX Machina, with your hosts, Naoma Finn, Steve Wildman Munrotis, and D.A. Roberts. Join us as we explore writing, books, authors, and all things horror. We will delve into the sightings, reports, encounters, and tales of monsters. We will also explore the writings of D.A. Roberts along with others in the horror genre. We will investigate the possibilities that monsters may not be safely locked away in the pages of books. They might just walk among us even now. Grab some popcorn and lock the doors. It's going to be a creepy journey. Welcome to DAX Machina.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to DAX Machina. Joining me tonight are my always partners in crime, Steve Wildman Munrotis and Naoma Finn. You'll know her from the Dixie Cryptid podcast and the What If It's True podcast. So we're glad to steal her away once in a while. And we have an amazing guest in the audience tonight. James Creachbaum comes to us with about 30 years experience in the paranormal, dealing with ghosts, cryptids, and everything in between. So we're pretty happy to have him. James, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, sir?
Well, I started seeing spirits probably when I was 3. Didn't know they were spirits then, obviously. I just thought they was, a little Indian kid that I would play with every day outside, but he would never come in the house. And then I see spirits all through my teens and stuff, but I try to forget, I didn't even want to be bothered with that stuff. But as you get older, you got to either face it or deal with it. So I had to deal with it eventually. Story led up to that, but anyway, that's what I've done. I've spent a long time helping people with paranormal problems off and on for a long time. I actually retired from boots on the ground a couple of years ago. It just it takes a lot out of you, especially over time, and every time you go out, it just takes a piece of you. It just does. And
yeah, but
I've seen a lot, done a lot. Not much. You probably name it. I've done it as far as a paranormal field and seen and done pretty much everything from A to Z.
Well, that sounds like we've got a wide open field to talk about tonight.
Yeah, ask it, and I'm sure I can probably get something in reference to it.
Well, we will start with go with ladies first tonight. Naoma, do you have any questions you want to start out with?
Yeah, why am I not seeing the chats? I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties tonight. How about we skip me for right now and move on, because I've got to figure out these technical problems.
Steve, you go right ahead, bud.
Fortunately, I haven't had a lot of paranormal experiences myself. So I kind of look at this from an outsider's point of view and just fascinated to hear about these things. I noticed in a lot of these encounters, the professionals are able to distinguish very readily whether they're talking about like just residual energy or departed, human or a demon. How do you tell what you're dealing with when you walk into one of those scenarios?
Me personally, I can just the sicker I feel, the more negative it is. That's me personally. Usually, even when I would go, I would help a lot of teams. They would call me in usually to help face something that was a little above most of them's pay grade, to be honest with you. They'd bite off. I mean, because look, some of these places, you don't know what's going on in there. And some of them do have things that what I call real evil incarnate. It's not your average evil spirit. It's above that. And me personally, I can tell the more nauseous I feel, the worse I know it's going to be, honestly. Gotcha. But there's a lot of things going on out there that people are not even aware of. There's a lot of residual. A lot of people mistake that for really residual is nothing more than an imprint of time, basically. It's not like something that's going to chase you or follow you or bother you, really. It's just shocking when you see something like that. And it's just basically a loop on a reel. You know what I mean?
Sure. Kind of like the after effect on those buildings you would see during like the atomic bombs, the little effect burnt on the wall, it's kind of effect burnt on reality.
That's a good point. Yeah, they imprinted their shadows I mean, think about that. That's a serious trauma right there when your shadow is imprinted on something from your death. That's crazy.
What is the strangest thing you've ever encountered?
Oh boy, I can tell you the most mind-boggling thing that it's really encountered. And what happened this few years ago, this one team I would help once in a while, they were going to this house, but I couldn't go. So I forget what happened. For some reason I couldn't go, but I give them all the information I could to help them. And they went there, and he did what he could do. And then I had this one main group I got, so I put the information in there, about, hey, can you help them with prayers or whatever? They're going in there and need help to face this thing, to help a family. He went and did it. Okay, that's all said and done. Fast forward about 6 months, and this lady out of the blue says, hey, can you show me the pictures from that place? I know there was something really bad, evil there, like demons and stuff. Can you show me the picture? I said, no, I'm not going to show nobody those pictures because it's just not safe. So I didn't think nothing of it. So then she now here's the other thing, to be able to go back 6 months in a group and access one certain post about something like that is hard to do. Usually when I can't go back more than a couple of weeks and it freezes up or don't want, but to go back 6 months and find that one specific post about that one case was I'm thinking that's kind of weird. 15 minutes later, the guy that owned the team that I put that post on to help 6 months ago, he calls my house and says, hey, I really need to go to this house with me. I'm like, are you talking about the case from 6 months ago? He goes, yeah. I said, well, you'll believe this, but a lady just called me and said she wants to see pictures of the demons in that place. So I'm like, are you, that right there was kind of stood the hair up on my back. What's the odds of that happening? You know what I mean? It's not very slim. So I said, okay. So I said, we'll go. We set it up. We're going to go there. Now, this lady that wanted to see this post, she didn't know nothing about this. I didn't tell her none of this stuff. So the next day goes by, and already I'm scratching my head. This is weird already. So then she says to me in a message, she says, are you going back to that place? I said, yeah, I'm going to that. Why? What's going on? She says, well, I can see what's going on there. The evil there knows you're coming. It's laughing at you. And I said, well, obviously everybody knows I'm going to this place but me. I was the last person to know about it. It's like, what is, I mean, it's mind-boggling. It really, listen, that place was, wow. That's like, I know we got there. There was a long dirt driveway, and I made everybody stop, and I got out and checked because, listen, if you're wavering at anything going in this place, you're going to get hurt. I'm like, it was a rough one. When I was in there doing my thing, coming out of the one room, I could feel it was trying to get my heart. Often they try to get your heart. It was trying to squeeze my heart and get me. But there was a lot to it, but it was mind-boggling. It was extremely scary. I mean, I can't even put into words how scary it was, but we finally got it off there. And the one guy, he had a bad attachment, like he was going in and out of consciousness. It was awful. But we fixed him up, got everything normal. But the weird part was the evil that was there knew I was coming way before I did, before I ever knew anything about it. People around me knew about it. I didn't know about it. But, if you think about it, that lady messaged me and said, hey, tell me about this case from 6 months ago, out of the blue. And 15 minutes later, the guy that was there that owned the team says, hey, can you come to this case? I'm like, okay, I knew it's going to be a doozy already. That was probably one of the more mind-blowing cases I went on.
That's wild.
What did you do to get rid of it, of the attachment?
I got I don't like to tell people because it's dangerous unless you know what you're doing, but I got rid of the attachment with a couple certain words I say and certain instruments I use. It comes off every time. And the thing is, I've dislodged attachments on many people, and every time they come off of you, you either get dizzy, you might faint, pass out, tired, feel sick, nauseous. It's very powerful when something's on you and you lift it off of you, you feel it. And then you know what? You'll probably sleep half the day the next day, and then from there on, you feel like $1,000,000. Honestly, I know personally because I've had a couple. I'm not preaching something I haven't been through, but yeah. Now, yeah, when I went there, there's certain cleansing prayers I say and other things I do, and use certain instruments. I go room to room, get everything out of there, make sure it's all gone. And it usually is. But the problem is, it's like anything else. People are their own worst enemies. You know, it's a lot like a drug addiction. Like a person can stop doing the drugs, but you have to do the work to keep your addiction from coming back. Same kind of thing with hauntings with a lot of people. They inadvertently, unbeknownst to them, invite these things in by doing things or saying things or that they don't even realize that's bringing it in. Whatever you've done to bring it in, you got to figure that out and not do that no more, because it will come back in. And when it does, it's going to be even more ticked off. So that's what's, yeah. Yeah, I've had to go to different places a couple times. It's because the people don't change their lifestyles. You know, you got to change to get change.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, there's nothing that you can do to help them if they don't close the door.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then unfortunately, people think, well, I can do this and this, and I'll just call them and they'll come fix it. Well, I'm not going to go back there every time because first of all, it's a danger in my life. I've lost a lot over the years personally from doing these things. I've had things, follow me home and all kind of. Listen, it's endangered everybody that's there. Some of this stuff, it can follow you and it can wreck your whole life. Yeah, you lose your job, lose your friends, lose your spouse, lose your pets. You name it. This stuff's no joke. That's why I see a lot of these people. They want to start a team or go investigate as a hobby or for fun or for the thrills of it. I am telling you, you don't. Boy, I don't care if I ever get involved paranormal again. I didn't get into it for the thrills or the fun of it, or I needed answers. No, I did it because it was like a calling to help people, and that's what I did. Otherwise, I don't care if I ever see it again. I'm good. I'm just saying.
Well, what was the most frightening thing that you've ever had happen?
Boy, that's a good one. I can tell you, there's a bunch of them, but I did a case in Parma, Ohio, that the guy said, "Can you come help me with this?" I said, "Yeah, okay." So we get there, and I got this thing. It's in this closet, but in the closet there's a crawl space. It goes. I mean, you literally had to crawl, but it was like a whole nother closet. It was weird upstairs. So I know it's in this. I can feel it's in there. So the wife, she takes me into the closet, and when she opens the closet, this crawl space has got probably a 3 by 3 foot door that's just sitting in there. But once we go in there, whatever was on the inside, it blew that door off violently, and they went flying across and slammed against the other wall. And she jumped back. She's already been scared and frightened. And this is one of the few times I ever lied to the client. She says, "What was that?" I said, "Oh, it was just a draft suction from opening the door," but that's not what it was. She was already feeding this thing because she was so scared. I didn't want to make it any worse and make it any tougher on me. Everybody else, I just said, "Oh, it's just a draft. Don't worry about it. I'll take it from here." So I get in there. I crawl in there. I've got these things I'm doing and saying and stuff, and I'm on all fours on this little walkway, crawling in pitch dark, but a little bit of light coming in because the door is open. And I'm the face of that Jeepers Creepers. You ever see that movie, Jeepers Creepers?
Oh, yeah.
That is exactly what I saw. And the only thing I can think of, these things get in your head and they try to take your worst fears and visions and use them against you. And I think that's what it did. That is exactly what I saw, plain as day, 4 feet away, that Jeep growling, and he bum rushed me. And when he did, he knocked me off all fours. He knocked me right over and went out behind me and out. But That
Wow.
was one of the scariest things. I can remember I was like, I don't want to do this, but I got to, I got to face this thing, get it out of here. And I turned my head and boom, there he was with them. Oh, it was just ugly, nasty.
Wow.
It was awful. We got him out of there, but boy, he did not want to go. It took some time to get that one out, but that was one of the scariest looking faces. I knew there was something there. I just didn't want to look. Boy, when I turned, and it was like, boom. And knocked me clear over. He come out of such a force. I was like, oh, yeah.
We had a question for you out of the audience. Werewolf 5674 says, I have a question. I was doing an ambulance tour for kids. Someone took a picture while I was putting on a heart monitor on a little girl. In the picture, there was an evil-looking demon behind. Then he finishes, says, was the thing on me or the girl in the picture taken? It was on my back leaning over me toward her.
Oh, it was over his back leaning as he's leaning over her. Here's the thing about pictures, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but pictures and videos that have these evil and demons in them, you really shouldn't watch them or look at them, because I'm going to tell you something. Time is not irrelevant to these things. In other words, what I'm saying is there's no past, present, or future. These things can literally come out of a picture or video. I know several people way high up that are professional, work for the Vatican. And these things, they have come out of videos or pictures that were taken months ago or years ago, because they don't have, especially videos, they don't have there's no time restraints with them, if that makes any sense with you. So I would be curious. Sounds to me like, I don't think it might have been on him unless he's experienced a lot of bad luck and bad things. Otherwise, it might have been just there where he was. I don't know where he was exactly, but these things,
considering it was in the back of an ambulance, it was probably something attached. How many people die in an ambulance every year? Or there's how much suffering is in one when they're taking people to the hospital. It could just be a negative spirit that was attached to the ambulance.
That's such a good point. That right there attracts these things. You just touched on it. There's so much. It's like a light to a moth. There's so much trauma and drama going through and out, and negative energy, and through that ambulance that attracts these things. So yeah, it was probably there, ready to do whatever it does or make things miserable. But I'll tell you one thing: if I wasn't an ambulance man, I'd have to sage and bless that thing all the time. I'm just saying, that's me personally. But yeah, wow, I couldn't imagine.
He said the picture freaked him out so bad he burned it. Well, I don't blame you.
Very wise. Yeah, definitely. And boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, if you work in a place like that, I would try whatever your higher power is, use that as strength, grip it, and do whatever you can to help and protect yourself every day if you're going on a job like that. Because boy, you touched on it. Something like that really can attract some things. Plus, you don't know the people that you're helping. A lot of these people, some of them might not be, they might do a lot of nefarious things and attract things themselves. You don't know what could be on them or following them around.
Exactly.
Honestly,
Okay. I guess if it's okay, I'll ask the next question.
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
So you said that you got into this as a calling. Exactly. What happened to make you say, this is something I need to do?
Well, for a lot of years, I always seen, like I said, I was seeing spirits since age 3, but I tried to put this stuff away. It was already awkward enough being a teenager and stuff. So I tried to put it away. And it came to a head one time back, I don't know, I think like 1987 or something. I was staying with my cousin and my aunt. They're both dead now. I was staying with them, and me and my cousin would go to work, and we'd come home, and his aunt had ADHD. She would, you take your clothes off, she'd have them washed and cleaned before you ever could sit down. And so anyway, she'd wash and clean clothes every day. And the next morning, my clothes would be across the room. I'm like, what's going on, And my cousin said he wasn't doing it. And so we didn't know. So this went on for about 2 weeks, and we lived upstairs in an apartment, and down below there was like a apartment. My cousin's girlfriend, she lived down there, so we'd come home. He'd be down there all night, and then come upstairs later, and it was directly below my bedroom. So this one night, when it all came to a head, there was it was a wooden floor, and I just get in there, I lay down, hadn't laid down for 10 seconds, and it sounded like somebody took a giant stainless steel pot full of other stainless steel pots and slammed it on the floor right beside me. And honest to God, that scared me so bad. It was so loud. I jumped up. I mean, I jumped out of that bed bad. I didn't know what happened. My aunt come running in. My cousin come running upstairs. They thought it was an earthquake or I died or something. You know, it sounded like a train. Nothing moved. Nothing out of place. Nothing. Okay, that was one of the more bizarre things. And talk about being spooked. It was bad. So, and here to come to find, I knew what was going on. There was an old guy there that died there, and I tried to ignore all this stuff. I didn't have nothing to do with him. I'd seen once in a while, but he was desperate to get my attention to try to communicate with me. That's what he did. He got that. I don't know how he made that noise like that, and I didn't just hear it. It was like everybody in the place heard it, But after that, I was like, maybe I can use some of these things that I see and know and can help people with them. So then I started studying up on every kind of book I could think of from mid 80s on, and and that's what I did. And then periodically, if I knew something I could help somebody, I would. And I'd go on the weekends to different places all over the country, especially on the East Coast, and investigate on the weekends. Which I will say, I used to go by myself, which I strongly suggest do not do that. Not at all.
Yeah, I made that mistake myself in LBL. I went in for better part of an entire day by myself. Sal Paso says, James, I've worked on the fire department EMS for 10 years. I've never seen anything spiritual, but I know as I've pulled up to a site that someone died there, I felt it as though I could sense death.
Oh, I don't doubt it. And I tell everybody this, whatever your gut feeling says, man, go with it, because that's your inner guides or whatever you want to call them, trying to help you and protect you. So if your gut feeling is saying, hey, I don't want to go in that building, or I shouldn't be here, man, you need to listen to it. And if it's telling you, yeah, there's some death going on, I'm sure it is. So yeah.
Lenita Bryant says, I've been seeing shadows moving in the kitchen. Then Shane said he'd been seeing shadow people in the kitchen. You got any advice for her?
Oh boy. So shadow people I tell you, I've seen more shadow people in my lifetime than any other thing. I don't know what it is about the shadow people. And I found it in my world anyway, I found that there's 3 categories of these shadow people. They're either interdimensional, real evil incarnate, what I call, or just regular human spirits. Now, that's in my world. That's how I've encountered them over the years. Best advice I can tell you is when you see them, try not to feed it any negative emotions like fear, anger, or confront it. The more you do that, the stronger it will get and the weaker you will get. So I strongly don't suggest doing any of that. I would suggest maybe doing some research and finding somebody in your area that's got a little bit of experience that can come in and maybe evict these things from your house.
So I'm sorry. Anybody else?
Yeah, I do have a question. When she said she's got the shadow people, how would you get rid of them?
Well, I know how I would get rid of them. It depends. If before I get rid of any of them like that in somebody's house, first I have to find out whatever their belief system is. It's not going to do no good for me to go in somewhere with using techniques from this belief system with somebody that might be Jewish or Hindu or whatever it may be. So, or even a Native American, you got to find out whatever their belief system is, or higher power. Go with that, then get whatever you can get from their belief system, and you can get these tools. You can bless a house and many different religions or whatever. Get it blessed. Get these things out of there with the right tools and the right words and the right people that know how to do it. And you can get these things out. And now, I strongly suggest don't do it yourself. Again, I would do some research, find somebody local in your area. Don't just call the first one of doing research. Make sure that it's not somebody that, it's not like a backyard mechanic is just doing this for fun, because they're just going to make things worse for you. And that's no way that is no way to do it. That's not going to be fun for you or anybody.
And if that fails, burn down the house.
Yeah, right. Burn down the house. Yeah, right. I've been to houses before that I went on a case right before one of the last cases I went on, and this house they had nothing there for 20 years, nothing, perfect. Then something was there, and then it was really, really bad, and for 5 years terrorized them. And over this 5-year period, they had 2 priests and 3 teams in there. Didn't do anything, just made it worse. Because here's another thing about hauntings and stuff like this. You can bring the Pope in or whoever you want to bring in. They can get rid of it. But if there's a portal there, if something's been opened up and you don't find and close it, a month goes by or whatever, that stuff's going to come right back in again. And it's going to be even more ticked off. And that's what was going on in this house. It had a few portals. And it wasn't that the priests that came, they wasn't that they were doing anything wrong. They just didn't look from closed portals. That's not part of their thing, And the teams that went in there, unfortunately, they were in there basically for their own self-indulging thrills. I hate to say it, but they didn't really do anything to help get rid of anything. They just went in there and kind of poked the bear a little bit for a few hours, if you know what I mean. And then, it made it worse. Believe me, that I spent 26 straight hours. That was probably one of the hardest things I ever had. I spent 26 straight hours nonstop getting rid of what was there. That's how bad it was, honestly. And when I was done, it took me probably 2 weeks to recoup, to get back to normal. It took that much out of me. It was just horrible bad. And God bless them family, because what had happened, they had a son that was a little bit autism, but he was older, like an adult, but he would get online. I had to play, you got to play detective and get this information, find out what caused it, what's going on. And this is what I found out, that he would get on these online games and play, and these people were telling him certain things to say. He was chanting, and what he was doing was inviting to open these things up, but I had to find this out all through questionnaires and question, the family and stuff, because that helps you get, what you, before you get rid of anything, you got to know what's going on, how it got there. Because if you don't stop it, it's just going to happen again. And it's a shame that there's people out there that take advantage of people like that. It's just sad, but it is true. There's a lot of bad people out there.
Bobfoot says, okay, if I see a shadow person, which I try not to think about it, but it just makes me think about it more and it gets me worked up. What should I do in that situation, or what should I think? I think what he's asking is how to make sure he doesn't invite them in.
It doesn't sound like it's invite them in. It sounds like it's already in there. Here's another thing. Ask yourself, did you bring anything in? How long has it been there? I mean, how did it get there? Let's try to figure that out. Did you bring something from a yard sale or a flea market? Maybe it came in attached to an object. Lord knows I've got a lot of stuff attached to things. They can come in that way. Is there somebody in your family that's a little bit more of a psychic than most people? Maybe it was attracted to them and followed them home. It's hard to say. It sounds like he may be a little bit psychic, and maybe it followed him home. Maybe.
That's interesting.
I was going to ask about objects. If you've dealt with a lot of objects that have attachments, and
what
you do with the objects.
Yeah, matter of fact, that's kind of what I do. I buy and sell antiques for a long time. So believe me, I had a whole garage out here one time full of stuff that was that shouldn't be in houses. That's why it was out in my garage. But yeah. Well, you can't. Here's the thing. I can't throw them away. Somebody pick it out of the garbage. Now they just brought home problems I just got rid of out of one house. So, but yeah, best thing to do is if you're at a yard sale or flea market, whatever. Before you ever touch or anything, if you see something you like, just kind of clear your mind and look at it and just focus on it. If your gut feeling is telling you, look, it doesn't feel right, then keep on going, but yeah, you can, objects are no different than people or places. You can cleanse those things and safely cleanse them. I mean, unless you know what you're doing, I wouldn't suggest it. Again, I would try to call somebody, research, and get somebody. Hey, I got something. Can you see if you can get rid of it, or the attachment from the object? But strongly, I suggest get a good feel on it. If it feels bad, let it go. It's not worth it. And never buy used mirrors. They're just not worth it. Let them go. Get a new mirror.
Werewolf 5674 says, when I walk into a building, house, etc., I've always felt good, evil, or neutral when he walks in. So he's probably got some sort of innate ability to sense things like that. Meg Mills says, I heard a woman I knew lost livestock till she removed a book she had gotten.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I one time bought 5 books that were 150, 200 years old between the 5 of them. And they were books on witchcraft and tortures and spells, you name it. There was stuff in those books that some of it you couldn't unsee, and some of it you shouldn't read. And if those books would fell in the wrong hands, it would have been horrible. So yeah, books can. But here's the thing: it could be anything. If I bought this pen today and I loved it so well, I can attach myself to it. And it's only a day old. It doesn't have to be old. It could be anything. It's just that's why you got to be aware of buying any used stuff or picking out the garbage. Before you do it, get a good feel on it. If it feels bad, let it go. Just move on.
Well, Bobfoot, the guy that asked about the shadow creatures, says they're never in one area. Like I was out on a trail and I see this shadow dart across and go behind some trees, and my horse freaked out. So I guess he's just seeing them like in the woods and out in the public.
Let me tell you something. It's funny he says that because I've seen more shadow people than anything else in my lifetime. And I have seen probably more on deserted woods at night driving, dart across the road. I've several times, many times. I've been in the woods too, just like he said, and seen them. Now around here, I think a lot of it's probably Native American spirits that they see. It's what I kind of feel from it. But you never know what they are. I would strongly suggest to, when you see these things, try not to focus on, just start thinking of something real positive or whatever your higher power is. Think of something, just start thinking about that positive stuff and just move on. Honestly.
Arlene Duet says, I have sage growing in my garden that my grandma gave me years ago. No matter where I live, I put it in a pot and take it with me. That's a good thing to keep around.
Yeah.
Robert Miller. Hey, Sentinel. What's up, everybody? And this one's, I think, for you, James. Says, Patty Gonzalez says, I have 7 huge mirrors in my living room, and I had someone tell me that if you had spirits in my house, and I did, it was due to my mirrors. I believe I do. And any thoughts of it being because of the mirrors?
Well, listen, mirrors can be, oh boy, I could write a book on mirrors alone. Mirrors, there's an old folk tale. When people used to die, they used to cover the mirrors so the spirits wouldn't get locked in the mirrors. Mirrors, they say if you put 2 mirrors facing each other, you can open a portal. Well, here, a lot of people say, well, maybe. I'm telling you, it could. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. I always tell people, it's like going on a lightning storm in the middle of a field. Your odds go way up. You're going to get struck by lightning. You may not, but the odds go way up. Same with put 2 mirrors facing each other. May open a portal, may not. But the odds sure go up if you do it. Also, mirrors can be so much. You can have attachments, portals, you name it. Listen, if you've got a mirror and you feel there's something bad with it, it probably is, honestly. And the thing with mirrors, there's really only 3 ways to legitimately, get rid of them safely. It's either thrown in the ocean or 28 degrees heat or buried in consecrated ground. To be safe, because you break them, now you got all them other little pieces. People pick them up, put in their house, or put in the garbage. Somebody take it home. And then they got problems, and that's no fun. That's why I had a whole garage full of stuff before.
Is there a way to safely cleanse a mirror?
Yeah, you can cleanse a mirror or any object. Again, depends what your belief system is, your higher power, whatever it is. There's cleansing words and procedures to go through, and just do some research, and you'll find it. Or best yet, instead of doing it yourself, find somebody in your area. Again, and there's people in your area. There's so many people now, but don't call the first one and have them come in. I'd look at a few of them and interview them like for a job, and go with your gut feeling. When you feel right, bring it in and do it. Because this is your life. This is your life you're talking about. You don't want to make it. You don't want to make it worse. So really take the time and feel the right one out.
I just can't imagine that interview. I'm sorry. I have a twisted mind.
Robert Miller says he sends mirrors to his ex. Marshall Sorota says the Jewish religion, when someone dies, they cover all the mirrors in the home.
Yeah, and I believe they got to be buried like by sundown the next day or sun up next day too. I think something like that. But yeah, see, that's the thing. Every religion's got their own little thing. So it depends. You can't use one belief system for another. You got to go with whatever your belief system is, and you're having issues. Do some research. You'll find somebody. One good place to help is your local library. They should have. That's a good place to start, really, for help.
Irene says animals are very sensitive to things. My timber shepherd stopped me from going into a house that I was going to buy. I didn't buy it. Well, if it wasn't good enough for the dog, I totally get it.
Listen, my sister, God bless her, she's bought and sold a few houses in her day. Sure enough, she'd say, "Hey, Jimmy, can you come over and walk through this house for me?" I said, "Sure." There was one else she was looking at, and she wanted me to go walk through, and I said, "Well, just send me a few pictures first." I looked at them pictures. I was like, "Do not buy that house. I don't even need to go there. I can tell by the pictures it was a really nice house. I mean, it really looked good, but you could tell that somebody had been beaten. It had a bad feel to them. Like, don't do it. Let it go.
Sal Passos wants to know, James, I'd be curious to know your opinion on the Dybbuk box.
I cannot believe people, I see it all the time online, people are buying these and opening them up like for the thrills of it, or if it's a big joke. Why would you do that? Why? Think about that for a minute, especially if you got a family. If you got a family, why would you buy a Dybbuk boxes are not to be messed around with. It's basically not the same, but kind of like a Jewish version of, you got a box and you're going to put something evil or a demon in it and kind of lock them in there. And some of the people, like the original one that everybody talked about, it was like to put one evil, I believe, to fight another evil, like against the Nazis. So, but the thing is, it's like open Pandora's box, man. Listen, there's all bad. Nothing good could come out of it. You really think about it. It's not going to come out of there. You're not going to win the lottery. You're not going to have good health. It's all going to be south from there. Don't mess with them. Don't touch them. Don't just leave them alone. That's my strong advice, honestly.
Wow. What do they look like? I'm not familiar with the Dybbuk box.
Oh.
There's different sizes and shapes of them. The one the famous one was basically just a wine. I think it was just a wine, like a wooden wine thing with the doors that locked and open. But basically, you can call it any box that you can lock and conceal and could put some kind of words together and lock something or bind it in there. But that stuff's dangerous, You're just because that could be another religion doesn't mean that whatever's in there, if you open it up, it's not going to say, "Well, you're not our religion. I'm not going to mess with you." Believe me, it's going to mess with you.
Right.
Well, I'm just, I was glancing at images of Dybbuk boxes, and the caption on one says, "Antique Dybbuk box won at auction."
Oh,
it's insane.
Listen, the famous Dybbuk box,
Mm-hmm.
the famous one, it started out, a guy had it. Matter of fact, one guy lived in Missouri, but it started out, a college kid had it, and then he had terrible luck, sold it, and the guy from Washington, I think Seattle, antique dealer, he bought it. And then it went from there. I think the guy has it now is from Missouri, I think he sold it to Zach Bagans maybe, but these things make their rounds and they're not safe at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want one. I will pass.
Me
Right.
too.
Outfit says, James, what are your thoughts on Ouija boards and other games to mess with spirits?
Oh my lordy. Any game, it's all about intent and knowledge and what you do with it. It could be a Ouija board, it could be a spirit, basically a spirit box is basically the modern version of the Ouija board. Ouija board was like the old, rotary phone. The spirit box is like the new Android version. I mean, basically, if you think about it. But here's the thing about them. I've seen some bad stuff, and the whole root of it was the Ouija board. And now I know there's people out there that will say scientifically it's just the idiometer effect. It's just your brain on. And I've seen proof that happens. But here's my thing. I say if that's the truth and your brain can psychically make these things happen, and it's not an evil spirit, that's even more scary if you think about it than an evil spirit. But I've seen both ends of it. And I think it's a little bit of both. I've seen stuff you can't unsee, and I haven't been alone when I see it. I knew somebody that played with a Ouija board by themselves, okay? And I'm telling you, their brothers came to me and said, look, we need help. This lady was playing the Ouija board by herself, unbeknownst to us. Can you come? Went to the house. The house was tore up from room to room, tore up the house, and she's jumping around like a crazed animal, foaming at the mouth, cussing, barking, speaking in tongues, the whole thing. Okay. It took, and she wasn't that very big of a lady. And
I think I dated her.
Oh boy.
In college.
I don't remember dating you.
That was from a Ouija board. Now it took us 5 hours to, and this is after they had to 130, 40-pound woman, these 250-pound guys each, was all they could do to get her tamed down to get this thing. It took us 5 hours to get nonstop to get what was in her out of her. Totally. And she done tore up the house. I mean, that house was like a crazed dog, and that house was tore up. She done would, I never seen nothing like, she would like run on all fours and like up a little side of the, like a rain start, and you go up the side of a wall and come back down and spin out on the table. And it was just, it was weird. It wasn't her. Look, this lady, I knew she was. She doesn't know what ancient Aramaic or Latin or whatever, all these words she was spewing and cussing. She wasn't even, she didn't even know who she was. And it was all from playing that game by herself. And now, again, it took us 5 hours to get that out of there. And then here's the weird part about this. The guys took that board and they threw it away. Well, 2 days later, that board came back. Nobody knows how it came back. I know this is weird. It doesn't even sound believable, but I'm telling you, it came back until I got rid of it. I took and buried it. I put it in hermetically sealed in a bag with a bunch of salt and I put it in the ocean and buried it where it would go down and stay surrounded with blessed stuff and with salt, and never had a problem since. But that is, again, and I've seen the science, I've done it, I've experienced, yeah. It could be the eating meat effect, but I'm going to tell you something. You also are inviting things in. And here's the thing about these Ouija boards too. I read a metaphor for it. It's like if you got a shark and you stick your arm down this shark's mouth, and if you tickle its tonsils, vocal cords a certain way, it's going to talk to you. Only it's going to lie to you, not tell you nothing positive. It's going to lie to you. However, while you're doing this, if you happen to trigger its gag reflex, it's going to bite you and you tear your arm off or bleed out or make your life miserable. It's basically a Ouija board. Nobody's ever played these that I know of ever been positive. Like those spirits lie. They'll tell you they're your great aunt or your grandmother. They lie. They're usually lower level entities. They're just waiting on a door that jammed up against the door, and you open it, just come flooding in or waiting to pounce, or they want you to lower your defenses, and then they'll pounce on you. These things I've seen, you wouldn't believe how many cases I've been on. That was the root of it all. Is playing these, even spirit boxes. If you're not careful, now these things can be okay. It's all about intent. If you use them, know what you're doing. Close them up the right way and do the right procedures. But most people don't, or they get spooked or scared, and next thing you know, their life is terrible.
That's some scary stuff.
I was telling you, I strongly suggest don't mess with them. But I mean, unless you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, it's like anything else. You know, I wouldn't tell a 5-year-old go mess with a chainsaw either. But if you know what you're doing, but you know, it's dangerous. That ain't be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, have the right intent. Really, that's the basic thing.
So far, I've gotten 2 takeaways from this interview. Don't mess with Ouija boards, and if your female companion starts cussing out in Aramaic, run like hell.
Time to go. Yeah,
that's just good advice in general.
And don't tickle a shark's tonsils.
No,
There you go.
It might talk to you, but then again, it might take your arm off. Like a Ouija board, it might talk to you. It might tell you what you want to hear. But the long run is, the more you play with it, guess what? You done to lower your defenses. An evil spirit done come in. Now your dog's dying. Your cat's dead. You lost your job. Your friends are hating you. They're not liking you. You know, you feel sick. You're miserable. You're not yourself. These things all happen. I have a long history of these things happening to people. I don't know from man to say, hey, well, you know, interview, have you did this or this? Oh, yeah, I was playing a Ouija board by myself all the time, and things would fly off the wall and things. And I'm like, okay, well, let's start there. You know.
I don't know which would disappoint me more with the shark thing. I don't know if I'd be more disappointed that it bit my arm off or that it didn't sound like Jabberjaw from the cartoon.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I would not be disappointed if it didn't bite my arm off. I'd be pretty happy about that, to be honest with you. I'd be like, look, I was stupid and I kept my hand anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
Honestly, my personal opinion, in my world, I don't mess with Ouija boards, even though I know what to do. I'm good with that. I don't need them. But some people like to mess around with. That's people don't think there's evil out there, but if something like that can cause such havoc in people, think how subtle of an evil that is, that you could actually go to a store and buy it, bring it home, and give it to your kids. Say, here, have fun with this. Just saying. Think about that for a minute.
Mark, I agree. They'll talk to you face to face.
And probably slap you in the back of the head like Denozo.
And then you'll get the spirit.
What were you thinking? Irene says, I watched the angel of death take my husband. When a spirit tried to tell me it was him, I prayed and burned sage. I knew.
Listen, that's a good. I don't blame you. I would too. Use your gut feeling. Some people are more sensitive than others. We all have abilities. Everybody's got abilities. You know, seriously. It's like everybody can play basketball, but not everybody's Michael Jordan. Some people just more in tune, some aren't, but you all have the same abilities. Just some people's just more skilled at it, or it just comes to them more easily. But I always say, regardless, and people, you can get attachments or have things follow you home. You don't even have to be ghost hunting. Man, a lot of people like to go out in woods. My gosh, there's a lot of stuff in the woods. Old buildings. Walmart, even just any places like that. You just gotta. People have spirits and baggage following around. You don't realize. You just gotta, use your higher power, protect yourself when you go to these places. And if you feel like something's following you home, and you've got sage and stuff, use it. Say, hey, you can't follow me in my house. Stay where you're at. Tell it.
Well, supernatural stuff notwithstanding, there's a lot of scary crap at Walmart.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Oh, Lordy. Yeah. Honestly, there's been several times I'd go to Walmart, and before I ever walk in that store, I sit and get a good read on it, this good feel. Sometimes I've said, no, not today. I'm just going to go back home. But honestly, sometimes you just gotta weigh it out. You gotta get a feel on it. But some days it's worse than others. But I'm just saying.
I never thought about going to Walmart and sitting in your car, look at the place, going, nope, not today, Satan.
Not today. No, going to go back home. Not
The
today.
last thing I do before I go to Walmart is check the mirror to make sure I'm not going to be one of the people in the pictures. That's all I do. I don't care if I go there. I just don't want to wind up on the Walmart website.
Oh my goodness.
Love it.
The Wall of Fame.
Yeah, I love it. It's like the wanted posters at the post office.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now, I could tell you a little bit funnier kind of story. A case I went on one time. Actually, wasn't even a case. Just I would go, like I said earlier, in the late '80s. There, I would go. I'd go investigate stuff just by myself, which you shouldn't do. I'm telling you, don't do it. I was wrong. I learned from my mistakes. I was young and dumb then. But anyway, but I had these 3 guys working for me for this company, and they were big guys, dig holes all day. They're big, burly guys, and they always make fun of me. Oh, there's no ghosts out there. What are you doing? They make fun of me all the time. So one day I said to them, look, why don't you 3 just come with me on the weekend when I go do my thing? It ain't going to cost you nothing. Just ride with me. So, okay. So finally, these 3 guys are going to go with me. So I pick them up in my truck. We go to this, and this place is called Barra Hack. That's the name of it. It's in Connecticut. You can look it up. It's in the middle of nowhere. And this is back in the late 80s. You can't even go there now. I think it's private property. But anyway, so you had to drive down this road and find this old oak tree and park, and then hike 2 miles in the woods in the middle of nowhere. I can't believe I found it. We did. And I timed it where it'd be kind of dark when we get there. And it was early to mid-November. So we get there, and all it was it's a village from the 1700s. There's nothing there but old rock foundations, like old pilgrim type stuff. And you're supposed to hear stuff and see things, and it was a spooky place. Imagine these old rock foundations, and you got this low level fog. That's what it was when we went there. We first get there, as spooky as all get out. The sun's going down, about to go down. So I'm leading. I get there, and we start hearing these ungodly noises. Just bone-chilling, weird stuff. I knew what it was because I grew up in the woods. So I would turn around and tell the guys, look, don't worry, that's nothing but deer rutting and grunting and making weird noises because they're in heat. As I went to turn around and tell them, all I seen was elbows and backside of them 3 guys. They were gone. They screwed. They did not stick around. I was going to tell them, don't worry about those noises. They were gone. So, I did see there was a place I seen 2 shadow people there. I got a couple of EVPs, and I was there for probably about an hour and a half. It was dark up pretty well. I'll bring it back to my truck. They might have left me, but I get back into there. They're sitting in the truck. The truck's locked. One's got a hammer in his hand. The other's got a big screwdriver. I'm like, what are you going to do? Fight a ghost with that or something? What are you doing? You guys, I made fun of them I never let them live that down. They were city folk. They didn't know no better, but they sure screwed.
That's funny. Irene Dewitt says, we don't celebrate Halloween at my house. Spending 10 years in Germany, you learn a lot about All Hallows Eve. And Samuel Kurt says, new here. Hello, DA, Steve, Naomi, and James. My wife won't have any dolls in the house. She believes that the spirits will take it over and then they attract them. What do you think?
Well, let me tell you this much.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Where I live, the biggest Amish community in the world is one county over, Holmes County, and the Amish will not have any dolls with a face. It's got to be all blank. Okay, there's reasons for that.
I think blank-faced dolls terrify me more than regular dolls.
Any dolls, it could be scary. The more you think about it, I'm telling you, I have seen. I don't know. Dolls can be. Some reason they attract some kind of nasty, haunting things sometimes. Let's just say that. Look at the Annabelle doll, for the love of God. Come on, it's locked up in a glass case. They say don't touch it. Well, what's the first thing you want to do?
Touch it, of course.
Speaking of the Annabelle
Hold
doll,
it
have you ever
rack it? Yeah.
Speaking of the Annabelle doll, have you ever worked with Ed and Lorraine Warren?
No, I never have. I don't. It's funny, our paths never crossed. We were in the same area for a lot of times, but I always wanted to, see what they were up to. But, they did their thing. I did mine. But the one thing I could never understand, I get their point, because I do the same thing. You get haunted things, get them out of the people's houses, but to put them where and let people come in and look at them, I think you're just playing with fire. I mean, think about
always
it.
thought that way. I always thought that was a little bit crazy.
I mean, because there's that one story where the priest came, and the priest kind of was provoking the Annabelle, and they can't prove this, but he died on the way home. Now, a coincidence, maybe, but here's my point: is it doesn't matter. Why you shouldn't have people in there where they can provoke things or touch it, or I get the point, getting them out of the house, but don't let other people come and interact with it. That's my bit. I mean, you do what you want, but I mean, it just seemed like he was playing with fire. When
put a replica up and encase the real one in concrete and drop it in the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
Salted concrete.
Yeah. Now, my son, when he was young, he won one of them Chucky dolls. Okay, there was a life size, them Chucky dolls, like from the movie. He wanted one. It's like, okay, so we got him when he was only about 4 years old, I think. And one day, I'm looking out the window, and he's dragging this thing behind him down the long lane we have to the trash can. He opened up, put it in the trash can, and he come back. I said, what's going on? He says, it won't quit talking to me. Well, it wasn't a talking Chucky. I said, okay. It didn't talk because it won't stop talking to me. It wasn't a talking toy. So I said, okay, it's a good place for it. So, we let. Oh my goodness! I actually went down, took it out of there, and got rid of it. I hermetically sealed it and buried it, but I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. I just know that when he said it wouldn't quit talking to him, it was like he got the right idea to get rid of it.
One year for Christmas, we bought all three of my boys this like almost 3 foot tall Superman, and it would you pose it and move it, and I would go in to tuck them in at night to check on them when they were asleep, and its head would be facing the wall. They'd have it stood. They always stood it up in the corner, and its head would be turned around backwards facing the wall. And I always thought, well, that's weird. And I'd turn it back around. Well, I just found out here recently that the boys left that thing out in the garage because they thought it was haunted. Because they would get up, they would go to bed and turn its head away because it creeped them out. And they would wake up and it'd be looking at them again. So apparently I terrorized my kids for years and never knew.
You're freaking them poor kids out.
Yeah, I've still got one of them. I threaten to put it out in the hallway every once in a while just to freak them out. They're like, that thing shows up in the hallway. We're burning it this time.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
So I gave my kids a lifetime scarring over because I didn't realize they were turning its head around backwards because it freaked them out.
D.A. Roberts' next book on parenting.
Yeah. Dolls can be scary. I mean, they just can be. Like any other object, they can get a attachment or a haunting. They just can.
I've got the perfect title for that book too, Naoma. It'd be called Parenting: The Reason My Wife Wouldn't Leave Me Alone with the Kids.
Okay.
Papa Bear says that's why I couldn't be a paranormal investigator. I would spend too much time messing with the entity.
Oh Lord!
Kind of like the Hellgate in Kansas.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh Lord, yeah. Papa Bear James is my son, and he did bad things at the Hellgate in Kansas.
I still want to go there. Right. I just had to postpone my trip.
Hell's Gate.
Yeah.
It's not right. Who's seen the movie Pay the Ghost with Nicolas Cage? I'm not familiar with that one. Any of you guys seen that one?
I haven't seen it. No.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's been a while, but I've seen when it came out.
Sal Paso says, I have a question. When I watch so-called ghost hunters on any of the TV shows, how terrorized they are when something does happen, wouldn't you expect something when you call for it to manifest?
They provoke stuff, and then when it responds, they're like, ah!
Yeah, just then, at that exact moment, and then the bald guy panics and runs over a cameraman.
Yeah.
Every episode.
Mm-hmm. Don't take to heart what them shows show on there. I'm just saying that's not reality. I'm telling you, it's just not. I mean, yeah, some of it is, but they're showing more stuff in an hour than you probably see or get in 24 or
Yeah, I love how every
3 days.
outing they get something too.
Yeah.
Well, they have to. It's entertainment. They have to.
I've gone out looking at places, and 9 times out of 10, all I ever do is end up scaring myself. But the rare occasions when something does happen, then we get really scared and haul ass out of there pretty fast. Mark Napier says, "Yeah, fire is the great cleanser. Cleanse that doll." Sal Passive says, I've got to proofread my chats. LOL. Sorry, TA. Hey, no worries, man. You should see my rough drafts that Naoma has to fix.
Oh, that's funny.
Napalm.
Yeah. I'm wrapped up in reading these. They're cracking me up tonight. Anyway,
Sal says, I know, James, I don't watch them from time to time for research, but after watching a few, nah, I'm right there with you, man.
I can't watch any of them, to be honest with you. I just can't. It's just...
Well, if I had to pick one to watch, the one that I give the most credibility to, and now that's not much, but the one I give the most credibility to is Ghost Nation. One that Ghost Adventures, that's like a sitcom. I mean, it's every episode, the main guy is going to say, just then, at that exact moment.
Right. Now,
the cameraman the bald guy ran over a cameraman.
That happens.
Is that the one with Zach? Okay.
The
one that I used to give a lot of credibility to was the one with the plumbers.
Ghost
because they would go to
it's split into 2 shows.
They're not bad.
They had a schism in the group, and the bulk of the group went on and formed what's called Ghost Nation. Yeah. And then a few of the old members continued on with Ghost Hunters, and I just haven't really liked Ghost Hunters as much since.
Well, I'll tell you the first season, what I liked was they would go to a house and the person would be terrified, and they'd look around and they'd say, well, yeah, let's fix this pipe and it won't happen anymore. And then for maybe every 3rd or 4th episode, they'd find something that seemed legitimate. Mm-hmm. And it felt more realistic that way because they weren't finding something every time they went out. And then they just got to where apparently that wasn't drawing in enough people, and they were finding them coming out of the woodworks. And I thought, this isn't any fun anymore. Yeah. I was taking bets on whether or not they'd find something that show.
If I'm of the opinion, if I can find something that explains the situation, I'm good. I mean, I'm not going to present something as being a legit thing if we know it's not. Werewolf 5674 says, hey, DA, did you watch Howl on Prime? Yes, I did. Great recommendation, by the way. Loved that movie. One of the better werewolf movies I've seen in a while. I love werewolf movies.
We're talking about the ghost stuff. I always used to like the show Ghost Lab, because it had the same kind of premise that Naoma was talking about. They would go on these investigations, and a lot of the time they wouldn't find anything, or they would find a tangible explanation for it, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah, at least they even Taps, they put, which was good. They put some science behind it and didn't just say, well, yeah, it's haunted, or oh my God, or start screaming and run out of the room like some of them people, or they, got to twist the guy's arm to go in the room. And when that's what you're an investigator, why are you going to be, coaxed to go do it? That's like going to a doctor and he's afraid of blood. You need to get another doctor.
Yeah, I like the Bigfoot ones where they do the tree knock, and if they hear something, they immediately run for their cars. What do you expect him to show up and go, Candygram?
Right. Or maybe you're saying, this is me over here, and it's that, I'm in heat, come get me. Or so. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what it means to them. And how about the language? And how about the people that's knocking, and then 2 miles away or a mile down the valley, they're hearing knocking back, and it's going back and forth. But it's 2 groups thinking they're talking to Bigfoot, and they're talking to each other. It's just people out in the wood tromping around.
That's what I expect when you hear them out there doing those whoops. If you find another camera crew a mile away, is that another group whooping back and forth?
Listen, when you go in the woods, I couldn't imagine going. I don't even go in the woods with anybody but myself. And I've always been that way. But I couldn't imagine going in the woods and having, 8, 10 people, dozen people behind me tramping around. Like if you go hunting or anything out in the woods, you got to be stealthy. You just do. And they're already going to know you're coming anyway. These things are ninjas of the woods. They probably can feel your vibration from a mile away. Who knows? Or smell you.
That's one of the first things I learned deer hunting is motion gives you away.
It's
the only way you're going to find a deer is you get someplace and you don't move.
Yeah.
If you're walking around, they're going to hear you and they're going to see you because they live there. You're just an intruder.
Right. And not only that, but a lot of birds and squirrels will give you away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, squirrels will give you away every time, those little monsters.
They will. They'll squall and give you away. When you hear a bird just going crazy, especially with some of them, I can't think what they're called, but they'll just squall. That means there's something coming through.
Crows will give you away too.
Yeah, they will.
Crows and ravens. Those things just seem to delight in going, hey, he's over here. He's over here.
Now,
bastards.
Now about them, that's another thing that reminded me of. About 20-some years ago, there was a big rash of Bigfoot sightings in my area. I mean, it was like everybody was, well, it wasn't sightings, there was activity, they called it. You know? So I thought, you know what, I'm going to get out. I'm going to go find out what's going on. So I went way out, down by Salt Fork, out in the middle of nowhere. And it's in daylight, but it's getting an hour probably before sunset. And I'm hearing some seriously ungodly noises. And I'm not recognizing these noises. And I grew up out here with something like this. Something's going to come to a head. So I get down behind this deadfall log, pretty good size. And I'm like, it's like on top of knowing it's coming at me. We're going to come to a head. One of them, probably me, I'm going to end up dying. Something's going to happen here. I'm really like nervous, and it's getting closer and closer. And I said, screw it. So I peeked up over it. It was a day-long peacock. And here what's going on, the farmers down there have these peacocks, but they would get away, and now they're running wild in the woods. And I don't know if you ever heard some peacocks, but some that can make some noises that they scare you. They just scare the death out of you. They just do.
I may be the only person I know who actually likes the sound of peacocks because it is a really strange sound.
It is a strange kind of lonely sound, but they can make a heck of a racket.
They make a lot. They make a lot of different weird noises. And if you're not familiar with them, because they're not a native, it's not a native bird of Ohio by no means,
Right.
And I seen one on an old shed out in the middle of the woods one time too, and I'm like, "What is?" It's on top of this. Like, how did you get? They fly for a little bit, but if you're not used to that, another thing, bobcats. I'm going to tell you something. Bobcat will scare the soul right out of you if you don't know what they sound like. Especially a couple females that come across each other, and that's another thing about cryptids and other animals. Here in Ohio, we're not even supposed to have bobcats where I live, but I've seen trail cams with 18 different ones. So how do you explain that? And these things can make some crazy, scary noises. Look them up online one time, and you'll be surprised. They can really scare you.
Foxes can make an ungodly racket. A buddy of mine and I were camping up in Rocky Mountain National. Oh, this would have been early 90s, somewhere in that ballpark. And we're laying in a tent, and it was just about sunrise. And we heard this god-awful shriek, and he's like, "That's a Bigfoot. I've got to get out of here." And I grabbed him by the shoulder. I'm like, "Dude, that's an elk." That's just a bull elk trumpeting. You don't need. That's not a Bigfoot. No animal can make that kind of noise. Yes, it can. It's an elk. It'll do it again here in a minute.
Yeah, I've heard them. They will get your attention real fast. Yeah, absolutely. There's other animals too that people don't realize. Even some birds, they can really let out some noises that you'd be like, "What is that?" It's
Well, deer even. We have a nature center here in Springfield that is just overgrown with deer. I didn't know that deer could make noises.
You can't shoot them there.
Well, yeah, I didn't know that they could make noises. And I'm walking along one of these trails, and there's a doe with her fawns, and she looked right at me and screamed. And I was like, "The hell is that?"
They can scream and they can bark too. It's not like a dog, but it's kind of like a raspy bark.
Well, I watched her muzzle move when she did it. I'm like, I never knew a deer could make noise. Yeah, it was a little terrifying.
Sal Paso says it's not another group, DA, it's the Moonshiners. Yeah, I've heard the racket some Moonshiners can make. I've still got cousins up in Laclede County that make that stuff. Lenita says, yeah, I won't give any names. I'll probably get an angry text here before too long. It's happened in the past. Dude, shut up. I didn't mention your name, moron. Lenita says, when you whoop, the Sasquatch people think you're crazy. I'm sure they do. Werewolf 5674 says, yeah, Bobo admitted the producers wanted him to find something every show. That wouldn't surprise me because it's not really a cryptozoology show. It's entertainment. All of them are designed to be entertainment to get viewers. That's why you've got to take anything they discover or present as evidence with a grain of salt, because it's all for entertainment value. The only place you're going to find cryptozoologists doing real research, you might find YouTube channels where they're doing it, or you might find something on like PBS, but the major networks are about ratings. So take that advice as you will. You can still enjoy your favorite shows as entertainment, but just remember the networks do control those shows, and they want people to see something to be interested about.
Yeah, they've got advertisement to please. They've got marketing and all that stuff. So yeah, they've got to entertain these people, or they won't watch, and then the show gets canceled.
Yeah. Mark W says, not finding Bigfoot as a town meeting to let everybody know where they'll be that night. Yeah, that's just inviting people to be on the neck ridge whooping back at you. Papa Bear says, my neighbor called the cops when he heard a fox's vixen call. I laughed for hours at him.
Those can be scary, like the deer you were talking about. That's what scared them 3 guys. My God, I turned around and told them what it was, and they were gone.
The most crazy, intense, loud scream I've ever heard in the woods was from a buddy of mine. I was in a deer stand, and he was in a deer blind about 50 yards away, and he fell asleep holding a sandwich, and a deer leaned through and was stealing his bread. And when he woke up with it right there, he screamed so loud, I think they heard him in the next county. I laughed so hard I almost fell out of the deer stand.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, if I hadn't been buckled in, I'd have hit the ground. I was dying.
Ooh, I'm getting flustered, boys.
I kept after it for weeks after that. I'm like, hey man, that's pretty bad when your supper steals your lunch.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So I didn't know those things like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, that's deer baiting.
It's like the one photo you see from like the inside of the deer blind, and this old guy's in his hunter gear with his rifle, and he's asleep, and the deer is licking his face.
He said I came to, and it's chewing on my sandwich, and I saw antlers in my face. He said I screamed, and it looked at me, and it screamed. Then I screamed again, and it screamed, and it took off with part of the deer blind, and I took off with the other half the other direction.
That's crazy.
I said, that's why I almost fell out of my deer stand.
Oh, someone should have had a camera for that.
God, I had. That was back in the days before cell phones. I wish I'd had a camcorder up there, because I was going to die. I was laughing so hard. I didn't even finish the hunt that day. I just climbed down. I'm like, let's just go. I seen nothing within 10 miles of here. Didn't hear that.
That's crazy.
Laugh so hard I would have pizza. When your supper eats your lunch, you're having a bad day.
Wow. It's time to give it up when that happens.
Yeah, pretty much. Werewolf 5674 says, yeah, it's like a deer blind. If you come home and a new chair is there, right away. Northwoods Cryptid says, walking up on a partridge and having it take off almost under your feet could leave you needing a change of clothes. Yeah. I kicked up a turkey one time, and it came up right at my face, all wings a flapping, and I thought I was gonna die. I didn't know what the hell I did out of those bushes.
I'm telling you, I'll tell you something else. Groundhog can be vicious too. I know people don't think so, but I accidentally kicked one up, and it got up like old beaver teeth. It was coming at me. I'm like, what? Was it a rabbit beaver or a rabbit groundhog. I mean, it was vicious, but they're not supposed to be that way. But it was mad. I kicked it up. I'll tell you that. I didn't mean to.
Attacked by a capybara.
Oh Lord, that's the biggest rodent there is, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh, Hector.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to derail everything. That just reminded me so much of Mark and the deer with the peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Well, how about
I never did go hunting with him again after that.
What about the guy that was in the deer stand and he was seriously hunting, and the Bigfoot snuck up on him and grabbed his foot? Do you remember that?
I have heard about that story. I think I would have. I probably would have abandoned that deer stand in a couple of steps, like pacing in the air.
Well,
I could have had my foot just as long as I got away with the rest of my body.
I had something walk up behind my deer stand. I'm pretty sure it was a Bigfoot. I never saw it, but just from the sound and as heavy as it was on 2 feet, there's not really anything else it could be. And it was a big tree I'd put my deer stand in. So by the time I got unbuckled and leaned around where I could see behind me, it was gone. This was some pretty thick brush, but I heard it come pacing up behind me, and it stopped right behind the tree. And I thought it was my uncle. I'm like, hey, who's back there? Because I wasn't sure who it was. And I heard it go, take a deep breath, like, and then I heard it turn and walk off. And I was like, what the hell was that?
Wow.
Candygram.
Yeah, that was a would you look at the time kind of moment.
Time to get out of there.
Yeah. I needed to be anywhere else about 5 hours ago. Time to go.
Mhm.
Irene Gillette says Bigfoot likes to mess with people. We've got to be their entertainment. You see some guy walking through the woods with a big parabolic mic and a baseball bat, and he's tapping on trees. There's 2 Bigfoot somewhere in the bush going, hey, watch this.
Look at this guy.
Hold my beer.
I'm going to scare the hell out of this one.
Oh, gosh.
Have you heard about the dog man who put his head in a hunter's lap? No.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm pretty sure I would have gagged the dog man from the sheer smell when I looked down. And if I had any dog treats, he was getting all of them. I haven't heard about one putting one in somebody's head. Either that guy had basketballs, or he probably passed out and fainted on the spot. Ooh, that would be a butt puckering moment.
Yeah, that dog man was not going to. Who's a good boy from me? That's for darn sure.
He just wants his ear scratched.
Who's your good boy?
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's just like any other dog. You get that back leg to kick, and you've made a friend.
I was going to say the legs twitching and you're scratching the head.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Couldn't imagine looking down and seeing that on my lap like a werewolf.
Oh, God, yeah. I probably would have needed a proctologist to pry that deer stand out of my ass.
Yeah.
That would have been a clinching moment. You don't think butt cheeks can bend metal? That would have happened.
Yeah, but this is the other way you could open a portal.
Denise Snyder says, I was out riding and had a turkey blow up right in front of us. It hit my mare's chest, and I ended up walking home that morning. Probably spooked your mare bad enough to definitely throw you. I've seen all kinds of stuff spook horses. With some horses, it doesn't take much.
No, but it's funny you mentioned earlier shadows in the woods. They are known to spook horses for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're so damn mean. Anyway.
Scooby snack time.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of an interesting segue. James, do you have any cryptid encounter experience?
I have a few, but not. I've not very much because I've never. Just haven't had any. First one I ever had was, I've told a few times on different places. I was young. It was like 4 of us were out drinking. That's what we did when we were 17. You live in this. You didn't have much to do on the weekends. You go out and drink, but unfortunately, the driver was drinking too, but not as much as the rest of us. But when you're 17, 16, you're stupid. We did stupid things. This is way back in the early 80s. Early 80s, we're out drinking. Anyway, we're in the middle of nowhere, out between what you'd call Gilmore, where Cy Young's from, and Salt Fork, which, if anybody knows the area, that's basically, especially 40 years ago, was basically a dirt road, just wide enough maybe for 2 cars if it wasn't raining. Or,
What state was that?
Ohio.
Ohio.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. It's like 2 a.m. We pull over on the side of this little mountain, and down below is a cow field, but there's nobody close. The closest house is probably 2 miles, and it's Amishmen, and so they don't have no electric because they're Amish, so everything's pitch dark. But there's a little bit of lightning going on. It's like a lightning storm, like heat lightning type. It's lighting up the field. A little bit of rain. So we pull over because, well, we got to water the tires, so to speak. So we're sitting there doing that, out looking down in this field on the off side of this mountain. And the only thing in this field is one tree, probably an oak tree, 200-300 years old, real big oak tree, fat one. But that's the only thing in the tree or in the field. And most people, when you see those, first of all, let me give you a little history about oak trees like that in the field. They would usually plant those over a witch that they buried somewhere. So that's right there as a first omen. So anyway, it's lightning.
That's not good. I've got like 3 big oaks in my backyard.
See? You didn't think about that.
Explains your eye shine.
So then the lightning, it lit up the field.
No oak trees over me.
And the one time when it did it, there was probably 8 foot, 3.5 foot wide, hairy, naked Amishman or whatever it would be. I would say it was probably a Bigfoot, but I mean, when you're 16, 17, you have a little bit, all 4 of us had a little bit to drink, and we see this. And 2 a.m. in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a hayfield, a giant, naked, hairy something. What could it be?
I want it to be the Amish guy.
Yeah. Right. Well, right.
Hezekiah's got a deep voice.
Yeah.
But that was but we wasn't even thinking Bigfoot then. Bigfoot wasn't on our mind back then or nothing. We didn't even know. The weird part was it lightning again and it wasn't there. So that really, I think that spooked us more. So like we all jumped in the car and the driver was, he on that gravel road, he was spinning, rocks were flying, man. And the weird part was, we didn't talk about it or anything. We just went home from there. It really put a damper in the night. It was strange. We never talked about it from that day. It was the strangest thing ever seen. I never forget it because it was a vision. You're sitting there and you're just thinking about reflecting. Next thing you know, what is that? It's like, where'd that come from? It's like, I'm out of here. We gone. We left. And there's been a lot of sightings in there over the years, but that was not even on our mind. We didn't know what Bigfoot was back then, really. It's like, I didn't know what that was. It was weird. When you're that age and nowhere and you're underage drinking, and it's like, why is that going to show up?
Yeah,
Where'd that come from? I don't know. It was weird, but I still have trouble accepting what it was. What else could it be? It had to be a Bigfoot. I mean, I'll look back on it. That's what it was.
Had a human face, a human-esque face.
Well, it was hard because it was dark and it was like probably 40 yards away, maybe down. But the thing was that it was there because when the lightning would light up that field, and then when lightning again, he wasn't there, and that really. First of all, I had to digest what we just see. That was like, then he wasn't there. That really spooked us. We'd gone. But yeah, that was spooky. It was weird.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I've heard those Amish guys can move pretty quick when they're streaking.
They may, yeah, probably. But what's he doing at 2 a.m. in the middle of a field by a oak tree that could attract lightning? It wasn't the smartest thing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was strange.
And what was the next one?
There was another one. Let's see. Actually, the one I seen it, but it wasn't me. I seen it, but anyway, a friend of mine she was in Alabama, and she was investigating this haunted woods, broad daylight. And while she was investigating, she's doing Facebook Live, doing EVPs for spirits and stuff. And unbeknownst to her, behind her, this Bigfoot made a quick appearance, come out from behind a tree and went back again. And I said to her, hey, I think a Bigfoot just came up behind a tree and went back again. And she looked at the video, and sure enough, you could see it. It was in the distance, but it came out. And I took a screenshot of it from the video. I still have the video, but that spooked her so bad, she never went back in the woods again. Matter of fact,
I can imagine.
That was freaky. Wasn't expecting that, at all. Now, the other thing I've seen different things in the woods. I can't say it was from Bigfoot. I can only think it was about a month and a half ago. I was hiking down Salt Fork actually, and I seen this look like a track, something heavy, almost like if you had a barefoot and you're on an end grade and you dig in, but you kind of squish your toes to give you leverage to go up a little bit. That's what it looked like. Okay, and it was big, right? But you really couldn't see definition of toes or anything. But that's kind of what it looked like a toe would grip and you kind of boost and go up. That's what it looked like if you was barefoot. So now I'm looking up in the woods looking for something, and I see this sapling about this big around, all the way up about 9 feet, but at about 8 foot mark, it looked like somebody took two hands like this and bent it over and snapped it and left it hanging there. Okay, but here's the thing. I don't know any human being that 8 foot high could take that and snap it and just let it hang there like that. It's probably 6 inch diameter straight across. That's incredible. And it's at 8 foot high. Now that's what the track was headed to. So now I'm looking all around it. There's shellbark hickory. There's some blue spruce, some other pines there, northern pines and stuff. None of them got any branches broke or nothing's broke. There was no snowfalls. It couldn't be a snowfall because it wasn't that old. So I deduct everything in Ohio was it could even do. We don't have no grizzlies. And we don't even have black bears. But once in a while, one will stray through. But it's not going to break. It can't break. How can it break a sapling like that at 8 foot high? And I don't think it was a bear because they're very rare, very rarely seen. And that was about a month and a half ago. And that's the only thing I could think had done it was somebody with superhuman strength. I mean, you couldn't do it. You can't do it. I don't know what else could have done it, but Bigfoot. There's been a lot of sightings in that area where it was for Bigfoot.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's usually a territorial marking, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, you would know more about the cryptids, but I've heard things like that. Now, I've seen other structures. One other time, probably 20 years ago, I was just chancing around. I wasn't looking for Bigfoot. Just sometimes I go out in the woods, And I did. I found a structure, and it was big. You could tell it was made, but it had leaves that looked like for shelter. Now, I can't say a Bigfoot did it, but I know an animal didn't do it. It was definitely something with hands, like a human or a Bigfoot had to do it. But why they would go out in the middle of nowhere and do that, and then we're talking probably 2 miles in to the woods. That's I don't know. Why would you do that? Why would a human do that? I don't know. Maybe, but I don't see the logic in it. I couldn't see. I looked for tracks and stuff, couldn't see nothing. It looked like somebody. If it was a Bigfoot, they made it, stayed there for a while, maybe left. It was a temporary thing. It didn't look like a permanent thing, but they put some time into it because they did have some like fern leaves and stuff in it, like for shelter, kind of keep the wind off, I guess, maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I haven't had too many other. There's been a lot of sightings. I just haven't seen one other than that one. I know a lot of people see them. I just don't see them. I look for them all the time. I see signs where they could be. Like that tree I saw that was broke. I don't know what else could do. I don't know. I don't know anything else can do that. And like I said, we don't even have grizzlies.
I would go with Bigfoot on that one myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a documentary recently, and they were talking about an island, Prince of Wales Island up in Alaska, where they find areas where good-sized trees have been ripped out of the ground, then jammed back into the ground with the root wad sticking up, and they believe that's a Bigfoot territorial marker. In fact, on Prince of Wales Island, there are a number of violent encounters of people that have gone past those. So they think Bigfoot is staking out its territory on Prince of Wales Island.
Yeah.
I think there's a show in that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And those were the big white cedars. And here's the thing about those. They probably weigh 2,500, 3,000 pounds, even being dead like that. And there's probably 8-10 feet of it down on the ground. Think about it. You got a tree that big. You got to
take some power.
I couldn't even. And I seen the one you're talking about. There's no heavy equipment tracks around there, nothing. So
Well,
how
it's
that
deep
got
in the
done,
woods. There's no way you got equipment to it.
you couldn't get right. You couldn't get right, but there was no tracks or signs of any heavy equipment, so it wasn't that.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you something. When you see that tree, because I've seen the one you're talking about, I've seen it before. That's mind blowing. Like,
oh yeah,
you know, like that's a
the amount of power it would take to do that is just unbelievable. And we look at chimpanzees. Chimpanzees are on an order of 10 times as strong as the average human, and that's that's saying something. You get the average human's pretty strong, but imagine a chimpanzee is still be able to physically overpower the biggest bodybuilder on the planet. That's intense strength. Now you take something that is 10 times the size of a chimp. Now we're talking some power.
Yeah, you got
100
something.
times the strength.
Yeah, you got some 8 foot, 800 or 1,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm. That's a big, strong animal.
They squash you like a bug.
Yeah, tear your arms off. Meg Mills says, "What's the last spirit you have dealt with in what area?"
Let me think here. I deal with them all the time, but not like probably the last one I dealt with that was the roughest. It was actually this house was in Indiana, and yeah, it was in Indiana. And this house here, this thing was up in the attic. It was a bad one. Matter of fact, it was rough. Now the attic, it was weird because the attic, you could only get to the attic from the outside, and you had to get a ladder, climb up this ladder, and go on a probably pitch like 45-degree roof, and then the homeowner had to take these drywall screws off this board that was over the hole so you can get in this place. But that's where it was. So anyway, he takes it off. We're going to go in there, and there's a light you can pull and turn on. So he goes to reach for it. He hasn't touched the string or nothing. Before he does, the light bulb explodes. Okay, I'm like, oh boy, that's the first red flag of any horror movie right there. I'm like, oh Lord. I'm like, oh. So the guy goes, I hope you don't freak out because we're going to go fall off this roof because we're on a pitch, And he goes, oh, don't worry about it. There's another one in the back. He goes, I'll go on back there and get it. I'm like, okay, go. Joe, you go. And the funny part was it was above his kitchen, but you had to walk on these 2x8s because in between you're going to fall through and go down through the kitchen. You know what I mean? From up above it there in this attic. So he's straddling these 2x8s, and he gets to the backlight, and it doesn't explode on him. He pulls it, and it turns on, and when it does, there's like there's insulation in between these 2x8s. And when he turns that light on, this evil thing, it spins out like a tornado, and like this insulation comes up with it. And I seen its face, man. This thing was ugly. It had a big head like this with spikes come out all over. Ugliest, almost bad as Jeeper Creeper thing. It had spikes come out, and I'm like, oh, I hope this guy don't see. He's gonna freak out, he's gonna fall through the kitchen, kill his wife, destroy his whole house. That's what I'm thinking. So he turns around, he goes, did you see that? I said, yeah. I said, what did you see? And he goes, I seen the back of this. He's seen the back. He didn't see it. If he didn't see that face, he'd had nightmares forever. That's what I was afraid of. He actually seen the back of this thing as it went down between where the roof went and the floor. There was a little I don't know, for it's a vent or something. It went out there, but that was it spun out like a tornado would come up, and when it spun, face went like that and turned. And he'd seen the back of it. That was the last one, and that was a rough one too. That one took a while to get out of there. Chased it around the house for a while. It's funny because that house was built on a street that was named after the founder that built the house they were in. It was like the first house on the street from early 1800s. And I actually seen a spirit there of this guy. It looked like an old cowboy. I think he was just minding his business. He wasn't bad enough, but there was something that got in there that wasn't good. And that was the last one I seen that was at a place, that wasn't a good thing. Now I've seen them periodically at Walmart, like I say, or, a cemetery behind my house, but they're just people passing through. Gettysburg, they're everywhere, night and day, 24/7. It's overrun with spirits.
I was going to ask you to elaborate on your Gettysburg experience.
Oh my goodness, there's so much. I was there for a week, and honestly, the first 2 days took me just to adjust. I had never been to a place that was so overwhelmed with spirits of just everywhere. I stayed at this one place, this one inn. It's just outside of town. It's off Hospital Road. So it's real dark and country like there, like backwoods. And so for 2 nights in a row, me and my friend would go on this road into Gettysburg. It's like 2 miles out of town, or 3 miles maybe, but it's secluded on that Hospital Road. And we would see like mist go across the road, but it would be like in the shape of soldiers, for lack of a better word. I mean, honestly, it's what they look like. It was weird. So the third day, my friend stops, and she goes, "Go out there and get some EVPs." And she pushed me out the door. I'm like, "Okay, sure. Let me go out there and jump in the midst of craziness." So I go out there and try and get some EVPs. I didn't think nothing of it. But every night we see these spirits. So I get back in the car, and she's looking. It's got those camera you can see behind you. I look down. I'm like, "Holy crap!" It looked like 3 or 4 soldiers, but the mist was shaped like you could see like the hat. It was weird. I never seen nothing like it. It was like walking toward us. I said, "Hey, look what's coming at us in the camera." And she goes, "Oh, hell no." She punched it, but put me in the back seat. Put me in the back seat and it was gone. But that was freaky on that road. It was like 3 nights in a row. We seen like mist that looked like soldiers walking across the road. And gunpowder, always smelled gunpowder out. That was weird. Gunpowder out of nowhere. And that same place, one night I thought, you know what, let me go out in the woods at 2 a.m, by myself. Why not? So I go out there. Nothing else.
You'd had a few. Why not?
No, I actually didn't have any of that night. It was like
I was just kidding.
So anyway, I'm coming back to the inn. I was out there just doing my thing. And next thing I know, somebody snuck up behind me and pinched my kidney. I'm like, oh, when you get pinched from behind, when you're not expecting it at 2 a.m. and like pitch dark woods from an out of state country town you're in, like, what was that? But boy, I jumped a good foot on that one. I'm like, and I right away I got the feeling somebody was just, it was like one of them guys was pranking with me. He wasn't bad or nothing. He just wanted to like, joke around with me. But I'll tell you, he got my attention real fast on that one.
I can imagine.
And go ahead.
I was going to say that would get my attention. I wouldn't be happy getting pinched by a human in the middle of the woods.
Oh.
And, 2 a.m. in some unfamiliar place.
Yeah, that would be a look at the time moment.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I hurried up and got back into my room and settled down for the night after that one. But well, that was the other thing about that place. This place was weird. When you walk in my room, you had to walk through this room that the floor is wood. It was they use it as a hospital. The floor is so stained in blood. That's all you see, stains of from the 1863 when the war was that battle. It's nothing but stains. It's just palpable, like you can feel it. You got to walk over to go to the stairs to go up to my room, right? So, and then they got this old chandelier coming down over this big antique table, and every night as I walk through there, I could see in the corner. Have you ever seen that movie Insidious? You ever see that movie?
Mm-hmm.
You see the evil-looking old woman, the one spirit woman is like staring like this, wouldn't move until you move, and it looks at you like that. That's what I was seeing in the corner. This old lady, she's standing over there in the corner. I'm like, so I'm walking by, and I got to get by her. Like she's in the corner. There's a table between us, but it's like she don't move, but her eyes are following me, and I can see her over. I'm like, I just kind of wave at her, say hi, how you doing? As I'm walking by, right? And when I walk by, she would dim the lights. I think it was her. I don't know who else would dim, but boy, as soon as them lights would dim, I'd kind of scurry on up to my room real quick. It was scary. It was.
That was so funny. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing?
Oh,
Exactly.
that lady, I'm just glad she didn't follow me or come darting at me. That's scary when they don't move, just their eyes when they watch you. I've seen several like that over the years, and it's just like, oh boy, just say something, do something, just don't.
Yeah.
So is Gettysburg? Oh, I think actually DA wants to say this question before I ask the next one.
Yeah, Meg Mills asked, what's the oldest home you've been to, and was there more than one spirit?
Oh yeah, I've been to a lot of old ones. I don't know the oldest one. Let's see. I've been to some on the East Coast that were real old, probably from 1700s. Several of them. One mansion I was at down there, they call it in Newport Beach, Rhode Island, they call it Millionaire's Row. There was a mansion there that was probably, I don't know how old it was, but it was old. It's 1700s, easy. Yeah, there's a lot of, I don't know. I mean, I went to just up the street from me, there's an old morgue funeral home. Now, and that's another thing about these places, like people get these brainstorms, let's get an old morgue and buy it, funeral home, and let's make it into apartments, and we'll rent them out. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not renting one of those.
Well, they made a movie about that. Haunting in Connecticut. Connecticut turned out to be they rented a house that was once a morgue.
Exactly. Yep. And there's one right up the street. About 5 years ago, a person I knew was having, they had an apartment there, and I'm like, why are you staying here? You always got problems in this place, man. It's an old morgue, a funeral home. It's these brainstorms, like taking an old asylum, and making apartments out of it. It's like, oh boy, you're crazy. Yeah, no, you're just
prime real estate.
Yeah, you're
People
right.
are dying to get in there.
Dying to get out too. Let me tell you. But yeah, that's it's bad. Those places they just don't end. It's hard to get good sleep in those places. I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've been in some old places for sure.
Have you? Have you been to any other battlefields?
Yeah, well, that one I was telling you about before the show down there in between Smyrna and Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I can't think of the name of it. So
you think I would know?
It's right off the main, what is that, Route 7 or 9 or something that connects between them. Anyway, it's right off there, but I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, I've been to that. I've been to other ones. I can't remember the name of them. Most famous one was the Gettysburg, but that Gettysburg is just 24/7. You don't have to look hard if you want to get scared or spooked. The only thing I would say about that, people getting EVPs outside, forget it, because I was at the Devil's Den. I was at one end, and clear at the other end is good distance. And I was hearing, and I know I didn't think it was spirits. I could hear talking. I just didn't get that feel like it was. I'm looking, and there was people, and that's got to be a good almost 100 yards. And you can hear them plain as day. It just kind of, the way those rocks are set up, it kind of echoes through it, and it sounds like they're right beside you, and they're 100 yards down the road.
Yeah. Was it Stones River that you were at? Was that the battlefield near Murfreesboro?
I think
Murfreesboro.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it started with an N or something, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember, honestly. But it's right off the one, like a 2-lane highway there, like from
70 South, maybe? Or 70S? No.
No, it was a single digit road, like 7 or 9.
Actually, 70S goes off to the east before Murfreesboro.
Yeah, whatever connects Smarta through Murfreesboro there and on up toward Nashville. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jay McManus asks, are the spirits you encountered at Gettysburg happy or sad? Are they aware they're in the spirit realm, and what is their purpose?
All of the above. I have encountered spirits there that were sad, happy, but you feel a lot of trauma sad there. I will tell you that. Yeah, you do. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the hauntings aren't really hauntings. They're what you call residual stuff. There's tons of residual stuff. I mean, my goodness. It's so imprinted. There's so much limestone and granite there. It's imprinted on that stuff. I mean, think about it. Anytime you get that much, almost 60,000 people die in 3 days, that's a lot of trauma and drama and just a lot of raw energy. That stuff's got a
lot of blood in that soil.
That's right. A lot of blood in the soil, too. You are so correct. There's just a lot of... I could not imagine. I couldn't live in that town. I couldn't live there.
I watched I watched a documentary about Gettysburg, the hauntings at Gettysburg a few years back, and I can't remember the name of it, and I haven't been able to find it again. But one of the coolest things about the documentary is while they were filming it, the park was closed that day. They were allowed to go in and film while the park was closed. But while they were talking, one of the guys was standing talking to the camera. You could hear like pipe and drums playing "Battle Cry of Freedom" in the background, and they said that wasn't them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I hope I can find that again. It was a really good documentary.
And it's funny because I've heard all kinds of things. I think it's residual. I call it residual. I mean, it's just stuff like that. You hear gunfire. You hear gunfire all the time. I used to hear it and smell. You'd smell guns powder like crazy, and nobody's shooting anything or no firecrackers. It's just, I think it's just residual stuff. You know, I really do.
Meg wants to know if you've ghost hunted in other countries.
No. Mostly from Ohio to Tennessee, Kentucky, East Coast.
But we're all taking a road trip to Scotland soon.
Yeah, we need to do that. Got to go to the necropolis in Glasgow.
Yeah.
We got to pick up my buddy when we're there. He'll be our tour guide. He's a zombie author I know named Stephen Kinney. If you're listening, Kinney, Stephen, shout out, brother. I know it's like late there, but hopefully you hear this. But he's a great author. You should check him out, Stephen Kinney. He writes a lot of zombie novels. Really good writer. Louis Noriega says at Custer's Last Stand battlefield, they sell all the Union soldiers were upset. A white diner. He didn't have to.
I think we got some typos there because I'm not sure what that. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Custer's Last Stand because the natives who won that battle refer to it as the Battle of Greasy Grass.
And they should. The victors should be allowed to name the battlefield.
7th Cavalry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now see that there's a place that's probably gonna be like Gettysburg.
Yeah, that or Wounded Knee.
Wounded Knee would be a really interesting one to go to.
Well, even the thing about Gettysburg too is before the Battle of Gettysburg, there was a lot of Native Americans battling each other that have died there, and along with Native Americans battling settlers there too. Mm-hmm. So that it's like layers. It's just layers and layers over there.
That was one of the things that I learned about Chickamauga, which is right on the Tennessee-Georgia border. It was the second bloodiest battle of the Civil War. It took place a few months after Gettysburg. But the interesting thing was, first of all, the name of Chickamauga is River of Death, which I found fascinating. Nice. But before that battle occurred, there were the Cherokees had settled there to get away from the encroaching European settlers, and they were chased out by the militia. So there was blood spilled then, and then prior to that, they'd already named it the River of Death. So there had to have been other battles that they knew of that white people apparently didn't find necessary to record. Mm-hmm. But and of course, that's where old Green Eyes is, a very well known specter.
Yeah, and those rivers, I tell you, I call them. Some rivers can be like Paranormal Highway. They just can be. They just seem to, I don't know, either entice it more or act as a catalyst to kick it up in certain places. Like Slater's Mill, that's an old mill. That's in Rhode Island. I think it's in Pawtuxet or Cranston, right along the line there. But I used to go there fishing all the time, right behind it. And this before I ever even knew it was haunted. Why, I didn't know. I'm sitting there, I could hear stuff and things. I'm like, boy, this place, something going on here. So I'd ask around, like, oh yes, one of the most haunted buildings around here, because back in the way back, 1800s, they would get kids to work on in this mill, these big presses and things, and they're the only ones that had small to get up there with their hands working, child labor. But a lot of kids died in there, which was brutal, or lose their limbs and stuff from these machines. But that floor is soaked in blood too, from kids and people dying in that old mill, Slater Mill. But I investigated a few times. I've seen a couple shadows and heard some things, but yeah, it's very haunted too. Well, that's an old place. That's probably 200-300-year-old building. I don't know. It's old.
Luis Noriega elaborated on his previous comment. Says the Union soldiers were upset that they died there, saying they should have died somewhere else. And the Indians beheaded the Union soldiers, but they didn't behead Custer because they didn't want his spirit to start roaming the land. Also, an interesting fact about that is they took his prized pistols, and they still have them on display. When the U.S. military asked for them back after everything was settled, the Sioux were like, "No, we're keeping them," and they still have them.
Oh wow, nice. Jeez,
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah,
can't have them
good for
back.
them.
No, we took these in battle and we're keeping them.
Didn't something else happen like that? That with like Santa Ana, like the local tribe stole his leg or something like that when he died, and they wouldn't give it back. And
would you? It's bragging rights, man.
Yeah,
That is a whole new level of counting coup right there.
That's right.
Yeah.
You steal somebody's leg.
yeah. Well, if I remember correctly, I think he had a wooden leg, and they took it.
That's
Leave it
nice.
out.
Patty Weavedow says Brandywine is another active battlefield.
Yeah.
There's so many battlefields from the Civil War. I mean, and then without you start looking at Europe, you look at some of those World War I and II battlefields where there are just huge cemeteries of these soldiers that died. Hell, there are still places in France today that you cannot go because of World War I. There's still unexploded ordnance.
Oh,
There's
right.
complete areas that are sealed off that they tell people don't go in there. You could be exposed to mustard gas or God knows what else from unexploded ordnance.
Imagine that. Yeah, there's a lot of places. There's still places in Vietnam that are active landmines. People dying every so often stepping on them. And even under the ocean, some of those things are 70 years old. They're really, if you think about it, they're ticking time bombs. And old torpedoes and grenades and even shell bullets.
Any of these battlefields and things are terrifying. Just the stuff that's gone down there. Several years ago, I was living in the Philippines, and I took a trip out to Corregidor Island, and all these old bunkers and things were just shot to hell from the Battle of Corregidor, and you could just feel the energy there. It's just the tour guide didn't go into any detail about any of the stuff there. You just could feel the awkwardness, that maybe it's that nausea feeling you're talking about. You just feel sick there.
You'll feel it, yeah.
And I took a bunch of pictures.
Oh, sorry.
I took a bunch of pictures. Didn't see anything funny in them, anything bizarre, but it was creepy as hell.
Mark Napier says, I got to go down the coal mine once. It was the creepiest place I've ever went, even more when I found out about the miners that were killed down there. Coal mining's a dangerous job.
Yeah, coal mining, where I live, coal mining is big around here, and they got what you call Tommyknockers. And there's spirits, and a lot of people die in there. And a lot of spirit. Plus, like I said before, the granite and limestone, I think a lot of that holds a lot of residual stuff anyway. And so that you mix that with the spirits of people that have passed on that maybe died suddenly, maybe don't even know they're dead.
That may be why the Ozarks have such a rich history of hauntings and creepy events and monsters and things like that, is because they say limestone carries that kind of energy, and Missouri is riddled with limestone. We're famous for it.
Oh, Kentucky and Tennessee too. It's like they're one of the sinkhole capitals of the world. Look at the Corvette museum there. It had a sinkhole. They also in the Corvettes. It's a lot of limestone. It's very porous, very porous.
I used to live about a mile from that museum.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stuff holds a lot of energy, even residual and maybe even intelligent spirits. And I often think too that these cryptids, I think they use some of these underground caves or systems because boy, Kentucky's probably got, and it branches out in Tennessee and all other states.
You get the Mammoth Cave Network. They have no idea how deep or even how far it goes. They've explored maybe 10% of it, and that's an estimate. They
And
might
what's
have
that?
only explored like 1%. They don't know how deep it goes.
And what's that? 50,000 miles, something that they've explored. That's like 1 or 2%. It's bizarre. And then you've got all these.
They think the network may go as far as Missouri.
Right, it probably does. And then you got all these defunct volcano tubes, and they're like caves, same thing. So I'm wondering, because where did you think about it? You got all these Bigfoot sightings. Where are they? They got to be hiding somewhere. You know what I mean? Like they got to be where you can't see them. Like they got to be underground or something. But I do think a lot of them go up in trees too, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mark Napier talking about his coal mine experiences. No one was there but us, and you expected someone to step out at any minute. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
Luis Noriega does a couple of the islands in Aleutian Islands. They did have people not to land on those islands, even though they're national monuments. But all the live ordnance stored on the islands from World War II. Yeah, there's still ordnance left behind in a lot of places.
That's dangerous
Meg Mills says in PA, I went to a penitentiary that was haunted. They do live ghost tours of the old Jefferson City Correctional Center. My dad was a guard there back in the 40s and 50s when they had the riots.
Wow!
The Jefferson City Correctional Facility was called the Bloody 48, the bloodiest 48 acres west of the Mississippi.
Yeah. Wow. That's what it's called too. Yeah. I can tell you what, I've been to a few prisons. That one in near in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Eastern State. Of all the prison ones I've been to, that's the that one there. You're going down I-70 East, and you can see it off in the distance for miles away as you're heading toward it, and it's just gloom and doom beckoning you. It's like, I dare you to come with me. And it's like, oh, the closer you get to it, the more miserable you feel. That's not even going. That's just going down the highway looking at it. It's like horrible. It looks like an old castle, a haunted castle is what it looks like.
I've got a relic from the old walls, as they refer to. I was a corrections officer for about 10 years, so I understand what my dad must have went through. I was on the riot team for 3.5 of that, but I've got a relic from the old JCCC days. This is a set of handcuffs that are still stamped with JCCC. God only knows what these cuffs have seen in their lifetime. They're an old set of cuffs.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to use them because I'd be afraid I couldn't get them back off of somebody. They're old.
Oh my goodness! So wonder you didn't bring something home with you.
God knows I might have. But then again, I spent 10 years behind the walls. I've seen the worst they can throw at me too.
Man.
I've got to get some more coffee. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. Well, this would be a good time. It's coming up on the 2-hour mark to have a word from our sponsor. So if you guys need to stretch your legs, get a drink, I'm going to go ahead and play a quick commercial and take a short commercial break. And to remind you of our sponsor, this is the good folks over at Dark Angel Medical. I carried a Dark Angel Medical kit for years when I was in law enforcement. Best kits in the business. They have the kit for life guarantee. If you ever use your kit to save somebody's life, they will replenish the kit for free for life. Also, they have kits for every need, from first aid kits all the way up to maximum level trauma kits. And I carried a trauma kit on my belt for years, as Steve can attest, because I worked as a security officer in the hospital where he still works. And I made sure all the nurses know where my trauma kit was, because the life it was going to save was likely going to be mine. So I wanted to always know them to know where it's at, and I carried a Dark Angel because they're the best. So check out the words from our sponsor, and hope you guys will go over and check out darkangelmedical.com.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
And we are back. Gentlemen, if either of you need to step out and grab something to drink or stretch your legs, I can handle things for a few minutes.
Oh, no worries. I'm good for now, but that may change when this coffee gets through.
Yeah, I got plenty of coffee. And just remind you folks out there, if you've got an encounter of your own, or a cryptid story or something you would like to pass along for us to share on the air, you can contact us in the chat room, or you can email me direct if you want to remain anonymous. You can email us at daroberts@daroberts.net. And if you would like to remain confidential, we're perfectly willing to do that. We don't judge anybody's account. Tell us your account. We take your word. We're not here to second guess anybody's account, because we don't know. There's no experts in this field. Nobody knows for sure what's out there. So, just because you think that I might not believe you, don't believe that, because we will. We've all seen some pretty weird things out there. And even though I tend to fall on the side of tracking the physical evidence, that's just the cop in me. That doesn't mean I don't, have an open mind that, there's a possibility that there's like mind speak or things like that, things we just don't know or understand. So if you've got an account and you want us to read it on the air, just go ahead and send it on over, and we would love to hear it. Appreciate you guys. And we do have kind of an announcement. We hit 900 subscribers on our YouTube channel tonight, so that is awesome. Thank you guys, much appreciated. That is all you guys and your support. So we sure appreciate that. You guys are awesome. And so we got 100 more to go to that 1,000, and I'll be giving away an out of print first edition book 1 of the Ragnarok saga. That'd be autographed, and I'll send it to whoever wins. And we'll be doing that drawing here on DAX Machina when we hit the 1,000 mark.
Sweet.
Samuel Kurt says, sorry for the spelling. What are your thoughts on Japan's Okigara suicide forest? Do you think spirits and or demons are doing it?
Yes and yes. Absolutely. But that forest has got a long history. It's like, that forest kind of reminds me of that prison I was talking about. It like beckons you, dares you to go there. And it's been doing this for a long time. That land is drenched in blood. There's been so many people go there to commit suicide, Harry Carey, as they call it, or whatever. A lot of people have died there. And the thing is, I've heard many stories of people going in there. Maybe they wanted to change their mind, but they couldn't find their way out again. And you'd think, look, you got a volcano in front of you. The way out is behind you. You think you'd get out of there, but they can't. End up getting lost and dying anyway. So there's all kind of crazy stories from that forest. But yeah, like demons and evil spirits both probably run wild in there. I've never been
I'm
there.
sure.
Yeah.
Luis Noriega says, in the movie Predator, he would travel from tree to tree. Do you think they got that idea from Bigfoot, that travel from tree to tree?
Honestly, I've talked to a couple people over the years. Most recently, I knew one report I read from 1970s from that same, that comes from I think it's from a cryptid, not from Bigfoot. I think it's from there. I think there's a cryptid out there that looks like a predator. And I've heard from 3 different sources over the years in different parts of the country. One in Arizona, one in Colorado, and I think the other was in Florida. No, one right here in Ohio. Matter of fact, Bruce McAbee's wife, she was out deer hunting.
Yeah, I remember that account. I think they refer to it as the Glimmer Man.
Yeah, but it was like the Predator Man. That was right up near, it's far from me, but it's still in Ohio. It's up by Lima, Ohio, I think, over there. But yeah, there was one in Ohio. There's been a proportion in Pennsylvania, one in Arizona, one in Colorado. That's 4. But yeah, these things, I think it's a whole separate predator. But I know the one from Arizona, the guy seen this thing, but he couldn't see it. But then he like he could see it. It was coming toward him, and he said he raised his gun up to him, and it started off and left. And it's kind of a similar thing, I think, with Bruce's wife, because she was deer hunting at the time when that happened. But who's to say? Maybe these things is what's taking people in the forest. Maybe that's why someone's missing. But there's definitely something going on. It looks like that predator. There's some kind of cryptid out there that's like that. I don't think it's Bigfoot. I think it's something else, something we don't know. Whether it's interdimensional or just something that we don't know. I don't know.
Well, here's a thought, and I'll just get your opinion on it. You've got a lot of experience in the field. They say Bigfoot is capable of producing infrasound, which is infrasound has been proven to cause like hallucination effects, even disorientation and blackouts in humans. Do you think at low levels Bigfoot could be using its infrasound to basically sneak up on people to basically mess with their vision?
I'm not going to count it out. I will say what I do think, in my opinion, what they do use this infrasound for is I think they use it like a warning system because I think it scares a lot of people, or it makes you want to leave, or makes you not feel well, or you want to leave the area. Like tigers. Tigers will give off infrasound at a low rumble. And some of these you can't detect them, but you can feel them. And I think it sets off a fight flight, but mostly a flight to get out of there. And I think they do use that. Now, I don't know if they can. I'm not going to roll against it. I don't know. We just don't know. But, I mean, anything's possible. So I wouldn't roll it out.
Tigers will use their infrasound to literally stun prey.
Alligators do the same thing.
Yeah, it's been documented in people that tigers, like in India, they would use that growl and people would freeze. And that's why there's so many accounts of tigers attacking people from India. And that's the way they hunt other animals. They basically stun it. And I think Bigfoot would operate the same way. And that's a common factor among people who are eyewitness with Bigfoot accounts. And they describe feeling the noise in their chest and in their body when Bigfoot screams. And I think they use the infrasound for more than one thing. I think they know how to trigger certain responses. I think they've got a hunting response and they've got a get out of here response. And I think there's a lot of things that they are capable of doing with that infrasound. And if it's something you're born naturally with, you're going to learn to use it.
Oh, most definitely. I think you're hitting on something there. Yeah, definitely. I think it could be used like multi different things to get out of there. And think about it. If you can use that to stun something where you can get up to it and pounce on it, you limit your chances of hurting yourself. So, yeah.
Could account for a lot of the missing 411 cases that David Paulides documents.
It very much could be. There's so much going on there. There's a lot of things these things could be. We just don't know. But I know there's a lot of similarity factors to all of them, like water, or somebody usually has a disability, or there's a lot of them, and you connect a lot of dots, which connects a lot of patterns, which is weird. But there's something there to it, though, for sure.
Yeah. Irene says, DA, my cousin's trying to get a picture of the thing he shot. He put silver in some 12-gauge shells. Silver's known for its purity. But I'm sure it would work on a lot of different things. Meg Mill says, Irene, yes, I've heard about gargoyles. Mark Napier says, there was a UFO sighting at the same time as the Glimmer Man sighting. Correct. They saw lights over the from the lady you mentioned. The band that was nearby saw lights over their field. Mm-hmm. And that was just like a mile or so away from where she was hunting.
It's kind of funny, given the analogies we keep on drawing to the predator. Whenever you see the what they call the Yocha, the predators show up. They've got their ships that seem to drop them off and cloak and fly away quickly.
Yeah. Meg Mills says, they say HARP is doing that type of stuff and they're missing people in the Alaska Triangle. I've often wondered what HARP is up to with that. There's like 150 of those antennas, and they're highly concentrating these energy signals. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know what it's even designed for, and they're certainly not going to tell us. But the Alaskan Triangle, over the last 30 years, more than 16,000 people have just vanished without a trace in the Alaskan Triangle.
And here's the thing about that too. A lot of people don't realize Alaska is about a quarter the size of the United States, right? Mm-hmm. But there's less than 1 million people. Only like 750,000 people live in that whole state. Think about that.
And they say if they took the population of Alaska and put one person in every square mile, they would run out of people before they ran out of square miles.
It's mind-boggling. There's more people in the state of Rhode Island, which is the size of my county I live in, than there is in the state of Alaska. So, but 16,000 people missing, that per capita is
That's
way
huge.
above the norm. I mean, way over.
Louis Norgay says, yeah, that's why I've got a box of 357 silver tips for the purity of it, and I got them blessed. I don't blame you there. Mark Napier says, during Bigfoot sightings, people were reporting losing control of body functions, which is also an infrasound symptom. Very true. Some people experience time loss because of infrasound. Some people black out. Some people have experienced visual and auditory hallucinations. And some people just have like a break. Some cases they recorded people would just like stop what they were doing, and one person was reported as just started taking their clothes off until somebody stopped them. like, hey, what are you doing? And they snapped out of it. But the infrasound does weird things to people. It just, your body chemistry reacts in really strange ways.
It kind of make me think of something. That with I can't pronounce it right. It's called the Ninov Pass or something. There happened in '59 in Russia.
Oh, Dyatlov Pass.
Yeah.
Dyatlov, yeah. Now, maybe that was infrasound that caused that, because you think about it, then people were like, they went mad or something. They cut out of their tents and were half naked running through sub-zero weather. So maybe it was infrasound that messed with them, because it messes with your mind.
Could be. There are a lot of theories.
Mhm.
There are a lot of theories about what happened in Dyatlov Pass.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of Dyatlov Pass, my next book in the Codename Wild Hunt series is going to be called Codename Wild Hunt: Death in Dyatlov Pass. So watch for that one coming pretty soon.
We'll hear another theory.
Yeah, right. Just heard about
Makes,
it.
yeah,
Well,
you never know what infrasound will do to people.
No,
and
you know.
no two people react the same way.
Mm-mm. It's weird because it's something we don't really know a lot about. But I think you touched on something. I think it makes people can either stun them, and other ones maybe, look, it's time to get out of here. You feel sick, I got to go. But either way, it's not something that's very helpful to you, other than maybe you should get out of there.
This might be an unpopular opinion, and again, folks, it's just my opinion. If you think I'm wrong, that's perfectly fine, because I don't claim to be an expert. This is just my thoughts. I'm wondering if infrasound might account for some of what people consider mind speak, because I know I've had moments in the woods where I just froze in my tracks, and I had that little voice in the back of my head that said, "You should not be here," and I've listened to that voice and got the hell out of there. But I don't think it was something else speaking to me. It was that primitive part of my brain going, hey, you don't want to be here, buddy. That was just good old butt saving fear.
Yeah, it's time to go.
About the people having loss of bodily functions in those Bigfoot encounters, infrasound or not, I guarantee if I come across Bigfoot, I'm losing control of my bodily functions. I'll go out on the medical literature books for an instant rectal prolapse. Yeah.
Mark Napier's got a point. Says in the missing 411 cases, the person's clothes are often found. One of the small children they found bits of the skull, but the clothes had been removed neatly. They had not been torn off by an animal. The clothes had basically just been very carefully removed, and then they found pieces of the kid's skull, and I think a few other bones, but it was mostly just part of the skull.
Skull and a foot, if I remember correctly.
In an area where they had searched many times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what else I've often wondered? These aliens, they are abducting people for years, so why wouldn't they abduct Bigfoot too?
I brought that up here just a couple shows back. If aliens are coming to this world from across time and space, across vast interstellar distances, if they're coming here to study life forms, specifically humanoid life forms, why wouldn't they study all humanoid life forms?
Right.
Certainly, at some point, they had to say, boy, those hairless ones aren't very smart. Let's look at the big hairy ones and see.
The hairless ones are screwing up the environment. Let's see what the hairy ones are doing.
Yeah, right. But and again, what about all these? It's not just cattle mutilations. Like there's been other animals. There's been sheep, goats, horses, and all these mutilations. A lot of them in forest areas that aren't even just found.
We did a show on Dogman in the LBL region not too long ago, and there are tons of animal mutilation accounts out in and around the LBL area. That they keep attributing it to a large canine, but they never out and out say it's Dogman. But there's just tons and tons of these accounts. People have had animals go missing. They found their own stock dogs dismembered and torn apart. They've found horses dead with huge claw marks on them. And I've seen mountain lions attack a lot of things, and they're pretty damn brave. But mountain lion will go after a calf or a colt, but they're not going to attack a 1,200-pound horse. It's just not big. They're not big enough to take it down.
Well, they're not. They're not. Yeah, they're going to danger themselves when they can get
right.
a cold
The risk of them getting hurt in the attack is pretty high, and that's not the way predators operate. They go for the easy kill.
They go for the neck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Louis Story says, I still say planet Earth is a test planet for these aliens to see who would survive and who will thrive. Yeah, you may be onto something there. Irene says they might be sacred to mess with the cryptids. Scared to mess. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. They might be scared to mess with the cryptids. Well, I don't blame them. I really don't. Yeah. Anything that can uproot a 2,500-pound tree, flip it over, and shove it back down on the ground as a territorial marker is not something I want to piss off idly. And they probably also found out really quickly the big hairy ones don't react well to getting probed.
No,
that's a Naoma line I stole.
Yeah, and how about that case? I think it was in Kentucky, like 2-3 years ago, where something went up the road, and they described it as a dog, but it wasn't a dog, and I think it killed a kid.
Yeah, 13-year-old kid. We talked about that account.
Yeah. So what became of that?
They dismissed it as a pack of dogs and buried the story.
That's not.
But it doesn't match anything.
It doesn't. I know.
That was actually one of those ones that we found that ended with, "This is not a conspiracy. Don't ask." The article literally ended with that. "This is not a conspiracy, so don't ask."
No, there's something went on there for sure. They really did try to cover it up. I tried everywhere to try to see what was the result of that, and it's always like iffy, sketchy.
When they put that tagline on there, "This is not a conspiracy, so don't ask," did they think we're going to go, "Oh, okay"?
You know, here's
makes sense.
Cover your eyes. We're not hiding anything, but cover your eyes.
Hey guys, look over here. Don't look at this. Look over there. Look over there.
There's more to that, because leading up to that, because I'd followed these stories in Tennessee and Kentucky, there were animals being killed by something. Mm-hmm. Like there were them 2 llamas that I think it were ibecas or llamas they used they were like watchdogs. Mm-hmm. And they were like 500 pounds each. They were slaughtered and killed. Then there was a couple, I think, yoles, and there was some other cattle, and it all kind of led. I had it on a map. It was all within 100 or mile radius or something. And then that kid or 13-year-old died, and it seemed like it was all related, but nobody wants to talk about it, you know.
Well, just a few miles away from where the kid was killed, a 74-year-old woman who walked down the same trail every night.
Yeah. So right.
She was mauled to death by a pack of dogs, and they wouldn't release anything other than that.
I remember that was one of the cases too. Yeah, because I followed
just a few miles from where the kid was killed.
Yeah, right.
Just up the road from me, 3 miniature horses and a couple of dogs were killed, and the sheriff and the DNR are still arguing over whether or not it was. The DNR says it couldn't have been animals. It had to have been. They were shot or they were cut with knives, and the sheriff says, no, there were no human tracks and there were no shell casings, and everything indicates animal, and they're still arguing over that. So
my cousin John and I went coon hunting one time, and he had a couple of really good coon dogs, and we heard him tree something, and then we heard him go to yelping. So we got hauling ass over there, and we physically saw a black panther killed one of the dogs, and the other one ran to us. And when we went to shoot the animal, and it ran off, I'd actually had to shoot the dog. It wasn't dead yet, but it would not have survived. And we actually physically saw it. Well, when we called the Missouri Department of Conservation, they looked us in the eye and go, "You didn't see that. There's no such thing as black panthers in Missouri." And we're like, "We just saw it." Like, no, you had to be mistaken.
Yeah.
No, don't think so.
Right.
Well, back in the late 90s, they were still denying that we had mountain lions here.
And I've heard them scream while camping. And I tell you, when you're camping with a bunch of kids age 6 down, that is a butt puckering moment to hear one close to you. Like, get them in the car.
Yeah, I saw one walking down the side of the road. I was driving through Marchway National Forest, and a juvenile mountain lion was just padding along on the opposite shoulder, and you know, I was wide awake. It was middle of the day. I was like, oh crap, you know. And it's the real reason I carry a gun when I travel. I'm not worried about the meth heads.
Kidding.
I'm worried about breaking down and being food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Right.
That's something I tell people. If you're going to go out in the woods, it doesn't matter if you're going Bigfoot hunting or if you're just hiking. Take something to defend yourself. If you can't carry a firearm because it's prohibited in that area because of hunting season or restrictions, then carry a knife. Carry a loud whistle. Carry bear spray, but carry something, because it might not be a cryptid out there that decides it wants to take a hunk out of you. It might be a mountain lion or a rattlesnake, or there are black bears in Missouri. There are grizzly bears in some states. You don't know what's out there, and most of it does not think of us as friends. Most of it thinks of us as food. Now, running into a grizzly bear in the wild, 9 times out of 10, you walk around a trail and you see a grizzly bear. As long as it doesn't have cubs, it generally goes its way and you go yours. But that one time is all it takes. And if it's like sick and can't hunt, or if it's close to hibernation season, you were the 2-legged pork variety.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because there was that child in Carolinas that went missing for 3 days, and it was in January, and it was supposedly, they said, it was a bear. Well, here's the thing that derails that whole story, because if that bear is going into hibernation, it's going to eat all it can to build up. If it's coming out, it's going to eat all it can because it's hungry. So it's an eating machine going in and out of there. So, and it wasn't a bear, and the kid wasn't dehydrated enough.
And January, the bear would have been hibernating anyway.
Right. So I know you remember that story. And it's like, none of that made sense either. None of that did. And I seen another documentary just the other day. This lady, she went out with a dog whistle at night, and she's whistled, call her dog. But they think like a skinwalker came. Did you see that documentary the other night?
Yes, I did. I watched that very documentary.
That was
the Navajo say don't whistle at night. Don't whistle.
And that's what
whistle
a lot of
in the
cultures
woods,
say don't
period.
whistle at night.
I've always been told don't whistle in the woods, period.
That was crazy. Her father didn't believe it until the next night. He opened the door and it was there looking at him. He still denied it, but it was like,
Yeah. How can you deny something when you see it, when you're literally looking at it?
Oh my goodness. You imagine opening the door and there's a thing looking at you like.
One, I wouldn't have opened the door. I'd have just looked out look through the window. And I don't need to open the door to get a good look at it. I can look out the little window, and another good indication, if my dog is hiding under a table, I'm not opening that door.
No,
I might shoot through it, but I'm not opening it.
Right. Your dog's whimpering and begging you, look, leave it alone. You need to listen.
Yeah. Werewolf 5674 says the Navy has a ULF system, an ultra low frequency system that can transmit through the earth to submarines. The antennas are buried and hundreds of miles long. Who knows what that does to humans? No kidding. I've heard about those systems. They use them to transmit to submarines even at depth. Northwood Cryptid says there are wolves around here, but the DNR denies it. Yeah. There are wolves in Missouri, and they swear up and down we don't have any. Luis Noriega says, coming home at 2 a.m. from work, I saw a mountain lion run across the freeway. Yeah, they're getting braver. I mean, Springfield is the 3rd largest city in Missouri, with counting the suburbs, roughly 500,000 population in the greater Springfield area, right, Steve? Give or take.
Yeah.
Counting all the little bedroom communities. And we've had black bears in town. People have photographed them in the middle of town in their backyards. So the animals are either losing their fear of us, or we've encroached enough on their territory that they've got no choice but to look at it for food.
Mountain lions too. One of the Southern Hills, they saw one a while back. And, the Metro of Springfield is about 160,000 people. It's not a mom and pop town.
Yeah.
And there was somebody recorded video of this mountain lion in their backyard, just padding along their back fence like it owned the place.
And what people don't fail to realize is mountain lions, their preferred attack range is animals between the 50 and 100 pound range. They don't want to attack something bigger. That describes a lot of children, less than 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So if you live near the edge of town, and you don't let your kids play in the backyard unsupervised, because you might hear a squawk and that's it. And they're just gone.
Well, how about that video that went viral last year where that mountain lion followed that guy out that dirt road? He's walking backwards. It's like bluff charging him for like half a mile. Did you see that one? That was scary.
I saw
that.
Yeah.
That guy was scared. Let me tell you.
Sure, I would be.
Meg Mills says, we cannot use guns or bear spray. I have a knife. Go to a sporting goods store and get you one of those air horns that people use at like sporting events that are real loud. That will deter a lot of stuff because big predators rely on their hearing. So you might be able to shock something into leaving you alone with just one of those cans of compressed air with the horn on it.
Might give you that few seconds you need to get away or whatever. You never know.
Might give you, like it might give you just enough time to get to your car. Pavel Kachilev says, hey, I'm 2019. A guy killed a mountain lion in Colorado with his bare hands. I remember that. That guy was a beast. Of course, he didn't have a choice. He was a kill it or die. But that was a grown man that mountain lion attacked. So either it was hungry or it really thought it could get away with it. So if they'll attack a grown man, they'll attack pretty much any of us.
Well, kudos to that guy. He had a big old set of balls.
Mm-hmm. No kidding. That's why he couldn't run. Northwoods Cryptid said stinging insect spray works for a lot of things. It's no longer put on the cans, but the antidote is atropine. Ugh. That's like nerve agent if your antidote is atropine.
Yeah.
Irene DeWitt says, Meg, are you kidding? Never go to the woods without both.
Guns and knives.
Meg says bears do not hibernate at certain temperatures. I believe 40 plus. Yeah, you have to be at a certain temperature, but that area was well below freezing. Marshall Sorotis
mountains. Yeah.
Marshall Sorotis says, I can't carry a gun in the woods. I don't go. Same reason I'll never go to New York. Papa Bear says, we tested a system that was anti-crowd deterrent. That was sonic waves. I've heard about that, about the military using focused sound generators. To not only to drive people back, but to break up riots and things like that. Yeah. They also used microwave generators, which
make it sterile on the spot. Jeez, sterilize the whole crowd with that. I mean,
I'm not sure what's worse, the microwave device or the brown note device. I mean, either way.
Well, the microwave one caused pain. And if you kept coming at it, it could blister your skin. But people would just 90% of the time just turn and run from it, and they'd cut it off. But I imagine you like found one guy that was really pissing you off and just kept it trained on him. He'd probably just pop like the old urban legend of the lady that put the poodle in her microwave to dry it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I keep thinking of the movie Gremlins.
Yeah, Gremlin in the microwave. Papa Bear says it would make people sick and drop you to your knees. I bet it would. Mark Napier says Gatlinburg, Tennessee has black bears walking down the streets. That's dangerous.
I've seen that.
That's a recipe for unpleasantness right there.
It's too deep.
Irene says, where I'm from, the snow is too deep to go in the woods and too cold as well.
There you go.
Meg says, DA both. We are talking too much land. They need food. They walk down our roads on I-73.
They're taking too much land. Yeah.
Oh, they're taking too much land. Yeah. Meg says, DA, thank you for the horn, but I hate the woods now after all of this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry if we ruined the woods for you. I mean,
our job here is done.
I still love the woods. I mean, even though, I've some of the experiences I've had, some of the things I've felt and seen in the woods, and Steve and I's our experience with the Joe Bald Recreation Area, I still like the woods. I still find a peace there. But does that mean I go unarmed? No, no. I go most definitely go armed.
Yeah.
Lenita says at Cade's Cove, my ex told me to feed a bear while he filmed. It ran him through the woods, then looked at me and ate his apple. Somebody said, "Hey, we'll go over and feed that bear." And we'd be like, "How about you do it? Because I'm not."
Yeah, how about I feed you to that bear?
Yeah, it reminds me of stupid human tricks. But talking about animal attacks, there was one in LBL where some moron thought it was a good idea to go up and pet one of the wild bison that are in the park. That ended predictably. The guy survived, but I think he learned an important life lesson.
You ever seen how big a wild bison is?
Oh,
Some of those things are 7-8 foot at the shoulders. They're massive.
They're massive. And he thought it'd be a good idea to go up and pet one. I guess he thought they were tame.
You realize
2,000 pounds.
if they stepped on your toes, they'd break every bone in your foot. You never walk again. They're so big.
My wife likes going down to the casinos that are down near the Oklahoma state border, and one of them is called Downstream, and they have a herd of their own buffalo there. And if you can drive along the pasture, and it's made from welded steel pipes about yay big around, otherwise they just run through it. I mean, the normal barbed wire fence won't even slow them down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even wow, yeah, that's big.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mess with them. I've seen them up close and personal. Mm-mm.
I'm always reminded of the guy who tested out the crazy glue by putting it on his hands and slapping his hands on the rhinoceros's butt, which of course made the rhinoceros go bonkers, and he couldn't release his hands, and it's running around and dragging him. And unfortunately, hours earlier, this particular rhinoceros had been constipated, and they had given it a laxative.
Oh no.
And during the excitement, the laxative kicked in.
So, could you say the man had a crappy experience?
Yes, he did. He had a crappy meal too. He survived, but his face was he survived. But his face was so caked with manure, they had to dig it out of his nose and mouth so he could breathe.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
That is a bad day.
At that point, just shoot me. You're never ever going to get that taste out of your mouth or that smell out of your nose. Every cheeseburger you eat for the rest of your life is going to smell and taste like rhinoceros crap.
Oh boy.
Just put me down.
God.
I don't no.
Just
finish the job.
Let me go.
Yeah, some people will do some really stupid things.
Yeah, let me die, and I'll go haunt someplace that James goes to visit, and we'll just move on with it.
Right.
You know, the funny thing about it is there are so many ways you could test out crazy glue. A rhinoceros backside is not the one I would choose.
That would not be first and foremost on my mind. I would think maybe I'll find a broken plate and put it together and see how well it holds. But never once in my life I went, how about I cover my hands with crazy glue and slap them to a rhinoceros's butt? What do you think is going to happen? Well, we know what's going to happen. Predictable results.
No plans in my life ever consisted of my hands and a rhinoceros's ass.
Yeah.
Or super
exactly.
glue.
Or super glue.
Or super glue for that matter.
Exactly.
Or super glue.
That's a guy that wakes up in the afterlife with a bunch of spirits standing around him going, dude, you're an idiot.
And you're going back down to try it again. Do you learn your lessons? This time it's going to be a hippo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if this stuff works in the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That
super
reminds
glue is
me
no
of
joke.
the old Darwin Awards.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I found that story because I love the Darwin Awards.
The Darwin Awards were the best.
Mm-hmm. I look those up periodically just to get a good laugh, and I accidentally came across the rhinoceros story in the process. And he didn't make the Darwin Awards because he did not die, but he got an honorable mention.
Got an honorable mention, yeah.
My favorite was the guy that bought a surplus Jado bottle from an Army surplus store and mounted it to the back of his car because he wanted to see how fast it would go. They said somewhere approaching 300 miles an hour, he was realized how bad of an idea it was and melted his brakes trying to stop the car. Apparently slamming into the side of a mesa at 700 miles an hour ended his trip.
But the cool thing was there was a tunnel painted on the side of it, and the model had Acme written on it.
The most creative way to destroy a Chevy Impala.
Somewhere in the distance, out in the deep desert, you heard meep meep.
Yeah. Yep.
The guy's name was Wiley.
Wiley.
Yeah, it's amazing, some of those things. I remember when you could find the Darwin Awards and then you find the actual text of the newspaper articles or whatever that report the deaths. I remember they had one. They were talking about a guy who had tried to pick up this fad, I guess, like people do off of TikTok and these other things, and they were going to gas stations, service stations, and they were taking the air pumps that you used to inflate your tires, and they would stick them in their butts and set them off. apparently it's quite a rush. Well,
I can imagine.
Where does that get from?
Well, apparently this one particular gas station, the regulator was set a lot higher because it was like a truck stop, and so the air compressor was designed to be able to inflate semi tires, and so the dude does this, and he basically blew apart. And it
would have been better if he ended up like a Macy's Day float, like.
Well, like so apparently he blew apart, and they're describing the witnesses' account of this whole thing, and the witness is talking about how it was like the 4th of July. And I'm sitting there laughing so hard I'm crying. Picture this guy basically being blown to confetti, and the guy watching is like, yeah, do
it again.
Yeah,
put it back together. We got to watch this again.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my god.
Or better yet, next.
Yes, he should have broke the seal, huh?
Oh, God.
Oh, Sal, that's sad.
Oh my. Oh, that's terrible.
Lord, I apologize.
That went down a whole road I wasn't planning on.
Luis says back in high school there was a guy who super glued a guy who was napping on the picnic bench. He super glued his hand on his forehead. So he walked around the rest of the day like he had no clue what's going on. Like,
oh my goodness.
I would have went with it. I would have done my best Christopher Lloyd impression. I'd have been walking out going, okie doke.
Great Scott.
Oh, I was
Marty.
laying in bed smoking a cigarette and forgot I left something on the stove.
That's where you just constantly walk around with your eyebrows up like you're scared or surprised. Like,
it's like you've had Botox. You always look shocked.
Oh my. So
Marcia says, what kind of moron would do that and arrows up your kazoo?
Well, he wanted to hear how the kazoo sounded.
I could kill you.
Apparently.
Clearly it was not one of the better ideas. Yeah, and who was bored and thought, you know what would be cool? If I stuck an air chuck up my butt. That's got to be fun.
Hey, I'm still asking who the guy was. The first guy was who said, see that chicken over there? I'm going to eat the next thing that pops out of its butt. I want to know who that person was.
Well, it's like
there was alcohol involved.
Like clams, oysters. I mean, who cracked one of them open and went, boy, that wonderful piece of snot looks delicious. I'm going to try it.
Oh, I like oysters, but that snot I don't do snot. That's the one thing I can't handle.
I remember when we were on our show a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
Pavel says, there I was minding my own business. Then bam, I woke up.
Oh.
Pavel gets the comment of the night. That's the funniest. Northwoods Cryptid says anyone who fell asleep or passed out in the common room in a barracks was subject to all kinds of things. Yeah, you didn't dare pass out in the day room. Jeez Louise. At the very least, you were going to get covered with Sharpies, and that's if you were lucky.
Oh, my Lord.
Oh, shoot.
Mark Napier says, I would have given someone a one-handed butt whooping. Marshall Strode is like, hold my beer. Watch this. Irene's got to go. Irene, thank you for being here. I have a good night.
See you later, Irene.
Yep, they're going to turn in myself there, DA. It's getting about past my bedtime.
Oh, sorry. We kind of got off on a tangent with the giggles there.
It's almost 12:30 where I'm at anyway.
Oh
yeah.
True. Well, thank you for being here.
I'm on that East Coast time zone.
That's true.
Well, we appreciate you coming to join us.
Thank you for being here, man. It's been a great show. You're a wealth of information.
Thank you.
I have to have you back sometime.
Well, thanks for having me. Hope you all have a great night. I don't even know how I can get off. I don't even know how to get off this thing, but anyway,
all you have to do is just close your browser.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope you all have a great night and a great weekend.
You too.
And listen, beware of anything that you bring home, feel for it first. Just don't bring it home, especially mirrors. Let them lay. That's my strong advice.
Great idea.
I
Strong
will
advice.
follow that advice.
Solid
Go with your
advice.
gut feeling. Go with your gut feeling on everything. Seriously.
It sure was nice to meet you, James.
Yeah, nice to meet all of you too.
Great.
And I hope you have a great week. And we'll talk to you down the road sometime, I'm sure.
You too,
All
sir.
right.
Be safe.
See you.
Good night.
Good night.
So, now you have to hit the leave button.
Oh, you made it.
Oh, there he goes.
Northwood says one guy came to with an eyebrow missing and half a mustache. That sounds pretty typical.
There is a book by
God.
Pat McManus called Poof No Eyebrows. And it is if you've never read Pat McManus, he is one of the funniest people I have ever read.
Oh.
And the Poof No Eyebrows story, it involves, at one point they had a sail attached to an outhouse that wound up going across the frozen lake a little too fast.
God.
There were the tracks of the outhouse and the tracks of the claws.
Oh my God.
Trying to stop it.
I just would have abandoned ship.
Bob, was that Bob Foot that said that he loved
Yes, Bob
what
Foot.
was Rancid Crabtree? That's the name of the guy.
Well, that was the Lake Wobegon days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With
The,
Garrison Keeler.
I don't know. It could have been. But and then he had a friend, his best buddy had a wretch, I think was his name. But
Oh my God.
his first deer hunting expedition, he was still a kid, didn't have a driver's license, so he rode his bike with his gun strapped to the handlebars up the side of the mountain. He's pedaling up the mountain and he passes these hunters that are truly, outfitted, and this is back in the 50s, so we're talking one of those old rickety bikes, and the guys just kind of stop and look at this crazy kid with the gun strapped, and he gets all the way to the top of the mountain, gets all set up in a stand, and here comes the prettiest buck he ever saw. He got all excited and he shot him, hit him right in the antler and killed him on the spot. So now he's got this dead deer up on top of the hill that dropped over right on the spot. He didn't even have to chase it or anything. And he's got to figure out how to get it back down the hill. So he comes with the conclusion that he's going to have to strap this deer to the bike. He straps the front legs to the handlebar, the back legs to the pedals, and he crawls in the seat underneath the deer, so the deer's kind of laid over him. And he starts down the hill, and about 100 yards or so before he gets to the hunters who are still standing there, the deer comes to, and it occurs to him, you can't kill a deer by hitting it in the antler. By the time he passed the hunters, the deer was pedaling the bike better than he was. and the hunters just watched him go by.
The deer looking at the hunters going, "Mah!"
Pat McManus from North Idaho, yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was he passed away, but his books are all collections of short stories that he did in the back of, and I can't remember the magazine. It wasn't Field and Stream, but it was a hunting magazine. And he just was hilarious. My sister is the one who kind of turned our whole family on to his books. And
some of those, they sound hilarious.
They are absolutely hilarious. My funniest guy I've ever read in my life. And if you grew up in the woods, if you grew up a country kid, you can really and truly identify with him.
All right. One of my favorite things to read, just kind of, in just the day-to-day world, is reviews of items on Amazon. They absolutely floor me. And
No, Marshall.
Good night, Marshall. I was reading about a guy who did a review of a little mini stun gun that he bought for his wife. And the little thing was about the size of a lipstick, and it ran on 2 AAA batteries. and he was afraid it wouldn't have enough voltage, to actually protect his wife. So he decides he's going to test it on himself. And so he's going to give himself just a little bite from the thing. And one way or another, he learns that you can't just give yourself a little bite from a stun gun, due to muscle contraction. It's, continuous. And he was telling the story about, when he came to and what his living room looked like. And I was laughing so hard. And he was talking about how his, the cat was hanging on a picture looking at it. The recliner was 8 feet from where he started. His nipples burnt. It's like, I don't know why, but I laughed so hard. And I just kept reading it. And I'm like, I'm imagining some idiot doing this.
When Ken comes to, he looks around and goes, while I was out, somebody shit my pants.
Right.
That one and the guy whose kid had the hamster that they thought was having the baby.
Oh, yes.
Or a gerbil they thought was having a baby. And he kept trying to ease the baby out and it wouldn't come. And then a little bit later, it quit having labor pains. So then a little bit later, it'd start having the labor pains and the little baby would start sticking its little foot out and he'd start pulling on it. Pretty soon, the gerbil would convulse and it'd stop having labor pains. And this went on all night before they finally took it to the vet. First of all, it wasn't a girl gerbil.
So he'd been giving a hand job to his gerbil all night. Meanwhile, the gerbil's thinking, best home ever. Not only do I get fresh food and water and clean bedding, this cage comes with a happy ending.
And of course, the guy's wife wouldn't stop laughing at him.
I wouldn't have either.
Me either. Me.
We have gone completely down the rabbit hole tonight.
But those are the two stories I think of when I think of really good internet stories, because the guy who tased himself and the guy with the gerbil.
Oh my God.
I often wonder if it's the same man.
The guy that ate the entire bag of sugar-free gummy bears and then tried to go through a TSA checkpoint. That was absolutely hysterical too.
I haven't heard that one.
So apparently sugar-free gummy bears. I think actually Pavel makes a reference to it. Yeah, the line. I didn't see it when I was laughing so hard I was crying. He eats this whole bag of things. Well, they're flavored or sweetened with mannitol. Mannitol is an extremely powerful laxative. And so he eats like a movie theater sized portion of these gummy bears. And so he's in one of these long TSA checkpoints, the whole, take off your shoes, scan your laptop, whatever. And something starts to grumble. Well, he's realizing that he's stuck in this line with no way out, and he's basically going to crap himself. And so he starts getting agitated. Well, of course, that's the attention of the TSA inspectors. And so they're, giving him a harder time because he's, starting to lose control of his situation here. So they take him off to a security room, and they decide they're going to cavity search this man.
Oh,
well, they
that guy quit.
They get about as far as him dropping trowel, and then Mother Nature runs its course.
Was there a silhouette of a TSA guy on the wall?
And so he was going into great detail about what happened to the 2 or 3 men that were assigned to search him, and the fines that he was assessed for the outcome of that inspection.
Oh my God!
Where did we go wrong?
I don't know.
I don't know. We went completely off the rails. Okay, an attempt to get back. Bob Foot says my favorite authors are Pat McManus, Gary Paulson, and UDA. Wild Hunt is the best series. Awesome, man. Thank you. It says Neoma gerbils are awful. That one particular gerbil was very happy with his homing.
May have been awful, but he was awful grateful too.
Papa says James left at a good time.
Oh shoot!
Benita's right says I laughed till I cried.
Didn't it start with Big Buffalo?
I think so. Patty says this is better than the food recipes down the rabbit hole. TSA agent, I'm in danger. And I put on my gloves and the gates of hell open. The next thing I remember, I'm puking in the sink.
Everything was fine, then suddenly a rectal Ragnarok occurred.
It's like a reverse volcano. Oh no, the poor TSA guys, he didn't sign up for that. That wasn't part of the job description. It's a shitty job, but somebody's got to do it. Oh, Northwood says this is like some of the conversations in the barracks day room.
Oh, Lord.
Hooter Transport says great TSA recruiting poster. It's the guy putting the glove on and the surprised look on his face.
No, just the silhouette of the guy putting his glove.
Yeah, the silhouette on the wall, complete with the gloved hand up. There's supposed to be a kaboom, an earth-shattering kaboom.
Oh my goodness!
I think that qualifies as a full-blown mirthquake.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
We almost lost Steve.
Oh, I'm dying. I hurt. Oh, dear God.
Oh, I wish everybody knew why that's so funny.
Pavel Calculus says Bounty, the quicker picker upper.
Oh my God.
Okay. Contain ourselves now.
Oh, oh my God.
We almost made the 3-hour mark.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And the sad thing is that we are all sober.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been drinking coffee tonight. Mark Napier says that'll teach him to move that line along. And Bob Foot says, and this is why I can't get my wife to watch.
My husband probably turned this off a long time ago.
Patty says, breathe, Steve.
Oh, I'm dying. I think I've immersed myself.
So anyway, buffalo or big?
Don't pet them.
Don't pet them, and
As
do
George
not
Carlin
superglue
said,
yourself to them.
Yeah, as George Carlin once said, don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet the sweaty stuff.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Northwood says derailed. The tracks are about a half mile behind.
Oh my God.
Werewolf 5674 says can't breathe from laughing. Yeah, Steve feels your pain, man.
Oh God. I've got COPD here.
Patty says, I'm watching you guys on my big screen. You have my whole family laughing and barking.
Oh, poor Patty.
Oh, we're sorry, Patty.
That would be a great t-shirt. The TSA silhouette with just the brown outline. A white shirt with a brown outline.
Oh my God.
Mark says, no, you just put yellow tape across the door and walk away. I don't care if I had to walk home naked. I'm not taking that uniform home.
Oh.
Oh, I'd have to walk through a high pressure car wash just for my wife to let me in the back door. And you're stripping on the back porch, I'm telling you.
Oh my God. Yeah, you just burn it, torch it.
There's no saving that uniform.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay.
I don't know whether to apologize or charge admission.
Excuse me.
Paul says TSA posters sell that to Clorox. Clorox is the new ad campaign.
Oh my God.
Patty says T-shirt yes, shower curtain no.
Here's a shower curtain.
Oh, and Mark Napier says biohazard at the least. He didn't even get the gas out.
Oh gosh.
Oh.
Northwoods Cryptid says, yes, there's some things worse than getting sprayed by a skunk.
Yeah, there's some things worse than coming across a cryptid in the woods alone at night, too, and apparently that's it.
Well, they don't have to worry about the cavity search because there's nothing left in there.
Cavity hell, search the wall.
Yeah, just check the wall.
Oh, Greg, you missed it.
You missed the full breakdown.
Oh my!
Kind of like as Martin Mull Martin Mull used to say, "I'd rather have a full bottle in front of me than a full frontal lobotomy."
Oh my Lord.
Anyway.
Meg says, "Hey, have we got the backpacks yet? We have the get in. We're getting tacos backpacks, but we're working on some more. So there is one type of big backpack on our merch site. If you guys want to swing by daroberts.net and go up where it says merch store, you can click on it and find all of those right on there. But there are some backpacks on there. There'll be more coming."
What was the name of the gummies? I believe it was actually that Haribo's sugar-free gummy bears, if I remember correctly. It was on Amazon, and I was reading it, and I was absolutely dying.
Chris Dresden says, "Trademark that logo. You will win. Naoma for the win." Yeah, sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. There's a YouTuber out there that goes by the name the LA Beast, and he recorded a video of him. I think he ate like a 5-pound bag of the sugar-free gummy bears, and then basically just kind of videoed himself as he's succumbing to the biological effects of this. And he didn't have to go to the hospital. Like he was
crapping out internal organs, I'm betting.
Yeah, I watched the video of him.
He was passing things that hadn't digested yet.
Oh my
gosh. He didn't remember eating. Is that a Lego? Jesus, where did that come from?
All that gum he chewed as a kid. It's gone now. Oh, shoot.
So, oh my God.
Where do we go from here, guys?
Can we even get back on? Can we recover from this?
I don't think so. I think
I blame Naoma. She started the whole category of scatological humor there.
Well,
I know, and I'm such a nice person. I don't.
The good thing about this
I
is
am.
it's only going to go up from here. I mean, we found the low point.
Well, exactly. 674 says the DA cooking and poop show.
Yeah, no doubt.
Found that Hot Wheels car he lost as a kid.
Oh,
I just passed the General Lee. Still orange.
Some more of those items that you'll have to have James bless for you when everything's done.
There's no cleansing that afterwards.
They want to know what's planned for Wednesday. Oh my God.
Well, Naomi, it was your idea. I'll let you announce Wednesday's show.
Oh my God.
Wednesday, we are going to be discussing Hockomock Swamp.
Which is in the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts.
We might wander a little bit outside of that swamp. There is lots of stuff. There's Bigfoot, there's puckwudgies, there's UFO sightings, weird lights, satanic ritual. Well, I don't know. The satanic ritual, I think, took place farther south in the
yeah, but I think some of it was in the swamp itself. Ritual murder.
Disappearing people.
Number of people missing there. Apparently, the place has been considered haunted since well before the 1600s when the first settlers got there.
There's the ledge, where people feel compelled to jump off and kill themselves. There's several rocks. There's the one with all of the weird writing on it, and then there's the poem.
The one with the poem, yeah.
All kinds of fun stuff up there.
Off it says Puckma what? Puckwudgie is basically like a miniature version of Bigfoot in, was it the Wampanoag tradition? Wampanoag Indians. And they were seen as mischievous and even malicious spirits that would mimic voices and lure people out into the swamp, sometimes never to be seen again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nasty
also,
buggers.
Bigfoot is played by Danny DeVito.
Patty says, my youngest to me, Mom, what's happening? Your friends are worse than our friends. I'm dying.
We're just cooler, that's all.
Northwood says, I doubt rhinos can be found in the woods of Massachusetts. God, I hope not.
Bring the Gorilla Glue if you do. Or the super glue.
Pavel Kachalev says, gives me Suicide Forest in Japan vibes. Yeah,
Yes.
The Hockomock Swamp is a very, very creepy place. Back in the 1920s and 30s, there were accounts of giant snakes. I will go into a lot of detail on that, but if it's weird and in the cryptid world or even paranormal world, it's probably been seen in that swamp.
Yes. It's going to be a
Bob
fun
says,
night.
interesting. Sounds like my ex-wife. Tristan says DeVito is a gugway. DeVito would be like a pint-sized gugway.
Yeah.
A really round pint-sized gugway. Like a Weebles version of the gugway.
Be amazing.
Yeah,
it's going to be a fun night.
Yeah, we're going to be continuing with our tradition for starting tonight of doing creepy and paranormal shows throughout the month of October for Halloween, obviously. But we kind of got sidetracked tonight. Started out creepy and ended up laughing our butts off.
Yeah,
Purely accidental.
Somebody uncorked the rhino joke, and we were down off the rails from there.
Oh, come on. It had to do with Bigfoot, or not Bigfoot, buffalo. Somebody patted a buffalo on the back. That's what happens when you make a pass at a buffalo.
Greg says, do anyone know anything about the Littlefoots, basically small 4 to 5 foot hairy forest people supposedly on the eastern seaboard? That would be the Puckwudgie. That's the Puckwudgies. They're like small versions of Sasquatch.
Yeah. Mini Squatch.
And been known to mimic voices and lure people to their doom.
Yeah. Eat unto. Something along those lines. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, it's gonna. Oh, I can't wait for Wednesday. It'll be fun. Steve, you need to call in sick.
Well, the following week I'm on vacation, and so my wife has booked me a nice little cottage by the lake for me to enjoy my free time to myself. And I assuming the internet connection there is good enough, I'm going to try to join the following Wednesday's broadcast just to kind of see what I'm missing.
Cool.
But yeah, unfortunately, calling the 6 not an option because I have too many of my coworkers know what I do on my Saturday nights. So
that's funny.
You probably they'd figure it out as soon as they turned on the show. But well.
Pavel says, well, when you start talking about people feeling compelled to do anything, it definitely begs the question, what's making it happen? Very true. it might be one of those situations where it's infrasound, where they're being compelled to do it. Werewolf 5674 says sewer gas. The Fae from S. Dresden. Mark Napier says DeVito is what happens when a Gugway eats a truckload of gummies. Yeah, getting chased down by a buffalo would give a different meaning to being half a horn in. Josh, you missed that one. That was a reference to you, buddy. Meg Mills says, Steve, always fun when you're here.
Because I'm an idiot.
Mark says, couldn't resist. Sorry. Patty says, after this show, I definitely need to upgrade my Patreon tower. Mark Napier just laughing. Patty's laughing at Mark. That's awesome. Awesome. Oh, Lord. Oh, my God.
Well, guys, should we end on a high note then?
Oh, we probably should.
I
got the vapors.
I don't think there's any saving this. We might as well just call it quits.
We've kind of lost all credibility at this point. We're not going to be able to get the serious string going again.
I know.
Everybody's got the giggles too much. Lynn says, what a great way to end the show, laughing. I totally agree.
Yeah.
You guys, anybody got any last words before we start wrapping up?
I would just like to take this opportunity to apologize for driving us down the potty highway.
Lord, I apologize.
In all seriousness, I think I have noticed that everything that happens on the show seems to have a reason behind it, and it happens when it needs to. And I think with everything going on in the world right now, politics aside, health aside, whatever, we needed this. And, and hopefully somebody watching did too, because it's been fun.
Yeah, as much, like Steve says, as much crap's going on in the world now. If we can bring a little joy to a few people and make some people laugh for a little while, then it's all worth it. We talked about cryptids. Well, what the heck just happened? We juggling co-hosts now.
I'm telling you, at least it held off until the end of the night before it started getting too crazy.
Good point. Like I was saying, with the world the way it is, if we can bring a little laughter into y'all's lives, I'm glad we could do it. And Northwoods Cryptid is right. Laughter is sometimes the best medicine. And I want to thank you guys for joining us and having a laugh with us. And we did get some good paranormal information out and talked to James about it. And we had a great time. And then we derailed and had a hilarious time. But it's fun to be able to do a serious bit of the show and then still do the humor, because to me the humor is just as much fun as the cryptid stuff, because I love hanging out with you guys, and it's like hanging out with a bunch of friends and laughing over a few drinks, and it's good to do it, especially considering the week I've had. I'm not even going to go into that. It's let's just say it's been a hell of a week. Let's see. Muffin says, all right, y'all in, and I just want to say good night and be safe. Don't be going to any gerbils.
Oh, Lord.
Patty says, love you all. You too, Patty. We love you. Great team. Good work. God bless you. You guys too. Thank you. Pavel says the paranormal makes life interesting. That it does. And I want to take a minute to say thank you to all the men and women in uniform, be that, medical staff, EMT staff, corrections, law enforcement, military, whatever you're wearing, you're keeping us safe out there. And we want to thank you all for it. Looks like we lost Naoma.
No.
Just want to take a moment and say thank you to all the men and women in uniform who are out there on the front lines, like you, Steve. You're out there dealing with all this crap that the world's throwing at us, and we just want to make sure everybody knows how much we appreciate all of you. And thank you guys for joining us. We had a heck of a good time. Mark says, "DA, really glad you're feeling better." Thank you, man. It's been, like I said, it's been a rough week. There she is.
There she is.
Jump back in for the very end. And,
I was just typing in to say goodnight to everyone for me, because I didn't think I could get back in.
Well, we're glad you did. And I just, again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys. We hit 900. Let's see where we're at right now. I will refresh that real fast. We're still at 900 dead on. We reach 900 subscribers. Next stop 1,000, and we'll do the giveaway. Wednesday night we'll do a $5 card giveaway. I forgot to order them before this show, so I'll get some more gift cards in for Friday's show, for Wednesday's show. And Wednesday we'll be discussing the Hockomock Swamp, and next Saturday we'll be discussing vampires. So good creepy topic to discuss. So I hope you guys will join us then. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. You guys are awesome. Some of the comments tonight were just killing me. I mean, I was laughing so hard. It was cracking me up.
Oh, that is so funny.
Yeah, Naoma froze up. Patty and Gonzalez just says poop. Says nobody will suspect the gummies at the Christmas party.
Oh, Lord.
Oh.
Where do you work at? I need to know because I'm going to that Christmas party.
You're not going to that Christmas party. Oh, it's been awesome tonight. The conversation in the chat room has been amazing. You guys had some great questions for James, and you guys had us cracking up. Some of the comments were just killing me. And I'm so glad you guys joined us tonight. And thank you all. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you for joining us tonight on DAX Machina. If you ever have an encounter of your own that you wish to discuss, contact us at daroberts@daroberts.net. You can remain completely anonymous if you wish. Pull your covers up tight and keep a nightlight burning bright. Oh, and did you forget to lock your doors?